Black first, my brothers and my sisters. Welcome to another episode of the Afro Elite Podcast. We have our very special guest returning, Torian Rain from the Torian Rain Reloaded channel. You guys definitely got to go check out his channel. The link is in the description. We've already did a couple of podcast episodes. This is going to be a review of The Boys TV show on Amazon Prime. We're going to be doing a recap of that, a review of that. We already did the first 3 seasons, and a link to that is also going to be in the description below. So if you guys want to check that out, you might want to, because we're going to have spoilers. I don't know why you would be watching the season 4 review if you haven't seen the other seasons. Also, you might need to, I think Torian would probably agree, you're probably going to need to see Gen V.
Yes.
That's a spin-off show of The Boys. And the reason why I say that is because Gen V, there's elements to that show that ties into season 4. And if you just saw The Boys and you didn't see Gen V, you're going to see certain characters pop up, or you're going to see certain plot lines from that show pop up into this show, and you're not going to know what that's about. Because that wasn't in The Boys, that was in Gen V.
Oh, definitely.
Okay, so I want to starting off with where we left off. We left off Homelander shooting with his laser vision, shooting this dude, blowing his head off.
Yep.
Okay. And the crowd was around. Because there was a protest between the Starlight crew and the Homelander crew. And it kind of like almost imitated like politically like Trump, like the pro-Trump MAGA, and then like the left, liberals and stuff like that. So it kind of, and this show kind of plays into that a little bit too.
A little is an understatement. It plays into it a lot. Like, you can look at some of the characters that they have that they brought into this season and see the parallels to some actual people.
Yeah, you do. And I thought that was really interesting how they did that. So it starts off, they're trying to, Huey, Eminem, I said Eminem, Mother's Milk, is, they're all trying to get Newman and the other guy, though, had just been elected. Okay, so president and vice president elect. They know that she's going to eventually kill the president so she can become the president. They all know that. So they're trying to get her out the paint, or whatever the case is. They didn't expect, and this is doing the thing, Homelander and Ryan to show up.
Right.
When Homelander and Ryan shows up, Butcher's there, and he completely dismisses the plan. He leaves his position and causes the plan to kind of go haywire or whatever. Then we get our first glimpse of Newman's, or Victoria, her daughter, Victoria Newman, that's her name, Victoria's daughter's power. Now, we knew she injected her with Gen V, not Gen V. That's what it's called, right? Gen V?
Compound V.
Compound V. We knew she injected her with Compound V, and I think season 3, but we didn't know what her power was.
Right, exactly.
So her power is this like kind of like a tentacle, like a tentacle eating snake that comes out her mouth.
Yeah, it's like 4 of them. It's like almost like a hydra.
Yeah. So she comes out, she stops the plan or whatever. Victoria meets Huey, and Huey sprays acid on her. The acid didn't even work. Burned her clothes, didn't work.
They shot her in the head, and that didn't work.
Yeah, it didn't. Almost killed Huey too, because they started ricocheting in the van.
Yeah.
Now, what I found very interesting about this whole scene is that Butcher is still trying to reach out to Ryan. And I think this is a big element in the show, where Butcher tries to keep like waning Ryan away from Homelander. And Ryan is kind of locked in with Homelander at this point in the show. Ryan is. So now they don't know what to do. They're trying to figure out something, some way to get to Newman or whatever the case is. And Butcher, they first off, in this part, MM is now leading the team.
Yeah, because Butcher is still kind of out of it. Because remember, at the end of the third season, he was in the hospital because that temp V that he was taking was like affecting him. It was like slowly killing him.
Yeah, yeah. So he's out. He be like having he be throwing up all over the place, even passing out. He's like incredibly sick, and Homelander even sees that. Homelander sees, like, he uses his X-ray vision and sees like, oh, you're about to die in like a couple months anyway. He sees the tumor in him, so he kind of, out of pity, kind of just leaves him alone
Yeah.
or whatever. So then Victoria and Butcher meet up, and they have an arrangement because Butcher wants Victoria to like be in on it with him in getting Homelander out the way. Um and here you can see Victoria's really not fully on board with Homelander like that.
Right.
Homelander is still calling the shots because earlier in the scene, when she shows up, or when Homelander shows up, I mean, Victoria's all like, what are you doing? She doesn't want him here. She's very upset that he's here because he's still on trial for blowing that guy's head off.
Exactly.
And so Homelander essentially shows up because he's all like, well, you know what? I call the shots, or whatever the case is. So that's what it's going to be. So we can see right there in their first interaction that Victoria is scared of Homelander, which begs the question to me. And Torian, I want to know what you think about this, because I've been trying to research this online, and there's no, it's kind of up in the air. Do you think that Victoria, her power could kill Homelander?
That was a question that I think many people have had for a long time, considering the type of ability that she does have in popping people's heads. But not to jump ahead, we'll probably never see that now, if that's actually possible. But there is one other person we know that does have that ability, and that's why people need to watch Gen V.
That's true. That's true. Because Gen V, and I'm there. So you guys know, there has been a death in the cast member of Gen V. He played Andre. I forgot his real name. He played Andre in Gen V. So the show might be pushed back a little bit, but from what I know, they're still coming out with Gen V season 2, and I'm pretty sure that's going to tie into The Boys in some way. I don't know if The Boys season 5 is going to come after or whichever one, but you should watch them both. That way you can understand what's going on, because you really wouldn't understand. Gen V even gives you a deeper breakdown into Victoria's power.
Yeah.
Because before Gen V, we didn't even know what Victoria's power was. We just know she's just blowing heads off. We don't know how she's doing it or what's going on. But Gen V actually did a breakdown into how advanced her powers is and how she's doing that.
Exactly.
So as of right now, we don't know. And the thing is that, and the reason why I asked that question is because throughout the entire course of the show, everybody's, now most of the superheroes, not all of them, but most of the superheroes have super strength to various degrees. Like some of them, pretty much all of them are bulletproof. For the most part, all of them are bulletproof. You could pretty much name on hand the ones who aren't, but pretty much all of them are bulletproof. All of them, you could throw them through a brick wall and they'd still get up. Some of them, like I said, are stronger than others, and then some of them are not that strong at all. Some of them are just regular human strength. But when it comes to Homelander in specific, Homelander is clearly the physically strongest out of everybody and the physically more durable out of everybody. So much so, there's not a single suit that's not scared of Homelander.
Pretty much. Well, except for Maeve.
Yeah, Maeve isn't.
Because she
Um,
went head, because she went head to head with Homelander at the end of the last season.
yes, that's true. Yeah, you're right. And she did pretty well too. Maeve punctured Homelander's ear with like a
Yeah,
straw or something like that.
yeah, some kind of needle or something like that.
Yeah. So even though Maeve didn't win, Maeve put up a decent fight of Homelander. Um, Maeve was at that point sick and tired of Homelander. Now Maeve is not as strong as Homelander, but Maeve is very strong. I
She's
remember
like
seeing
she's like Wonder Woman.
exactly. I remember seeing one thing online when people was all like, "Well, Homelander might not be that strong because Maeve is not." Maeve was able to kind of take Homelander for a little bit, and I was like, "Okay."
But
In the
also in a way,
very
I think, but also in a way, Homelander was kind of holding back too because
e-
he didn't want to fight her. Like he wasn't ready for her.
exactly, exactly, he really didn't. He was really trying to focus on Butcher and Soldier Boy, and Maeve was kind of in the way. So Homelander was kind of fighting, like almost defending himself. He was barely like really trying to fight her like that.
He was on the defense, not more on the offense.
Exact. And another thing, in the very, you know how strong Maeve is, because remember in the very first episode of The Boys, when there was like a speeding truck, like I don't know what type of vehicle you would call that, a money truck, just came in, and Maeve stood right in front, and the truck went straight through her.
Yeah, she split it in
And
half.
she didn't even move. Okay, that lets you know she has some very strong strength. She's very strong, not just bulletproof strong. Like her physical body is very strong. Probably not as strong as Homelander, but she is strong, and she was able to kind of uh, battle Homelander for a decent bit. And to be very honest, she displayed the best one-on-one showing of Homelander thus far.
Yeah, definitely.
Because even that scene in season 3 with Soldier Boy, Butcher, and Huey, they all had to jump Homelander. You know.
Yeah.
Now they were winning, but all three of them were souped up, and they all had to jump him. And Maeve was able to do pretty much more damage, you could say, to Homelander by herself.
Exactly. I agree.
So that's that. She did lose her powers though by Soldier Boy. I guess his nuke power can take away Soup's powers, so she lost her powers.
Yeah.
Whatever. She might make a return in next season though. Possibly. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah. So that ends that, or whatever the case is. Then I'm trying to think if there's anything like noteworthy, really, that
we saw Starlight fly in the first episode. Well,
yeah,
we kind of, because she kind of hinted it at the end of the third season when she started to float a little bit, when she was like really powered up, and then she just let out that blast and then she fell. So that gave the indicating that okay, she could at least levitate if she doesn't know how to fly. But in this one, we actually saw her come in, but we can still see that she's still struggling trying to fly because she didn't land perfectly. Like she kind of landed kind of rough, like to the point where she almost fell when she landed.
Yeah, she caught Frenchie too, because Frenchie and Kamiko had to jump out the window. She tried to catch them both, but she missed Kamiko, which is I don't want to say it's fine, but it is fine because Kamiko was okay.
Yeah, because she can heal herself.
Yeah, so Frenchie can't. That would have been it for Frenchie. So she made sure she had to catch Frenchie.
Yeah.
Let's see. Besides that, so we kind of get a glimpse to her power, and then I think that leads us into the second episode where they're starting to talk about, now this is where the new characters get brought up. They started talking about the new soups or whatever for
the seven.
Now another thing, in season 3, Black Noir, Homelander killed him. Homelander killed him because Homelander felt betrayed that Black Noir knew about Soldier Boy being his dad, and Black Noir didn't say anything or didn't let him know, even though he can't talk,
Yeah.
But Black Noir didn't indicate that or let Homelander know. So Homelander killed him. And this season we have Black Noir is back, but it's another guy.
And also, for those of y'all who didn't know, the actor who did Black Noir in the first 3 seasons is the same actor who did it in season 4. It's just that now you actually hear him speak and you see his face because he does take his mask off in one of the episodes. But it's the same actor. A lot of people didn't know because he was more of a physical actor. He didn't have to say anything, but this time they gave him lines. You actually saw his face, but it's the same actor.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Okay, well, that's good. Brother got to keep his job.
Right.
Okay. Okay. So they're lining up. Ashley is there. Man, we're gonna get to Ashley. Ashley was on some other stuff. But so Ashley is there. She's giving them the names of the soups or whatever. There was one dude that Homeland, some kind of like military dude. They was all like, nah, he's too much of a wild card. Then there was Sister Sage, and then there was Firecracker. Homelander is still like really pissed off. Homelander he's like really not feeling it, and then he realized, he was like, yeah, I like him, and then everybody else out of scare, like being terrified, like, yeah, of course they agree, and then he was like, well, no, I don't agree. So he's kind of playing with him a little bit, and everything he's saying, they're agreeing to, and this pisses Homelander off. He's like, nobody can say anything, no, like nobody has their mind of their own, and this pisses him off because essentially he feels like he has to do everything.
Yeah, he has a lot of yes men around him.
Exactly. Yeah.
No one there to challenge him until he gets to Sister Sage.
Yeah. Now I think I will say, I think this goes into Homelander's psyche because it plays into that, because when I watched the scene, I'm thinking to myself, you spent the whole 3 seasons terrifying anybody who said anything sideways to you. Everybody is petrified of looking at you in the wrong way, and now you're upset because everybody's a yes man. You know, so essentially he can't have it both ways, and I think this goes into the scene he had with Sage, because he's having like some type of midlife crisis.
Yeah, because remember, he's collecting his gray hairs.
Yeah.
He's collecting his gray hairs and he's keeping them in a mason jar in the drawer. I was like, when I was looking, I was like, wait a minute. And for those of y'all who aren't watching, the gray hairs that he's plucking is not from his head.
Oh, I just, that part just creeped me. I just like, what is he doing with that? And it was, unfortunately, the jar was full.
Yeah. Well, no. Wait. When we first saw him do it, the jar was like it was like maybe a fourth full. I mean, it wasn't completely full. It was like a fourth full. Of course, by the end of the season, it was so much in there you could have made an afro.
Oh Lord. So yeah, he's having this midlife crisis or whatever, and he tells that to Sage, and Sage was all like, well, he wants like absolute power, and then when he gets it, he's not happy. Like nothing is making him happy.
Yeah.
He wanted to be in charge of Vought. He spent all this time trying to be in charge of Vought. Now he's in charge of Vought, and he's not nothing's making him happy.
Yeah, and let's also like remind the people, for those who don't who may not be informed, but Sister Sage, her power is she's like the smartest person on the planet.
Yes. Yeah. She's able to, there's something with her brain. You know how in the human brain, it really stops, they say it stops developing at what, 25, right?
Yeah, something like that.
And yeah, something like that, right? There's
yeah.
Her brain just doesn't stop developing. Like her cognitive ability, her ability to plan things out, and her foresight and everything is bar none. She's literally the most intelligent person on Earth.
She's like Lucy.
Yeah, yeah, she is. So that's her power, and he went to her because he kind of just don't know what to do at this point. So at first she kind of is reluctant And he's all like, well, I know you want to do certain things, but Sage doesn't have, even though she has the intelligence, she doesn't have the ability to see out her plans. And Homelander gives her that ability.
Yeah.
So she joins him when it comes to their plan, and we're going to see that unfold later on. So a part of that, they go to, and correct me if I'm skipping over something. A part of that then is Homelander's trial, where he was going to be tried guilty or innocent over blowing that guy's head off at the end of season 3. So, no, to no surprise to anybody, Homelander gets found not guilty because I guess the dude threw a water bottle at his son and it was quote unquote self-defense. Then you see, now hold on. Actually, I am forgetting something. Because I wanted to say something about this. MM's ex-wife asks MM to trace down her husband because he's missing and his daughter wants to see him. And he doesn't want to do that or whatever, but he does it for his daughter. And then he was able to trace his I guess his ex-wife's husband to this lair where it was a trap, because Homelander got all of his super fans, his super mega fans, to get there. And then he had the Deep, Black Noir, and A-Train. He gave them all baseball bats and told them to bash their heads in with the bats. And A-Train is the only one who didn't do it. A-Train was the only one kind of like, I don't know about this. But Black Noir and the Deep, they did it.
And killed her husband. Even though I think she said that they were separated or something like that. I think she said they were separated, which I didn't feel nothing for him. When that happened to him, I didn't feel bad for him at all. That guy was weird anyway. And I was so glad when MM had gave him that one hit quitter last season.
Me too.
That was such a relief for me.
Me too. I didn't feel nothing for him. And I'm all like, oh, that's kind of what he get. Because remember, that was the guy when Homelander lasered that guy's head off. It was him who started cheering first.
Yeah.
He was the first one because everybody was kind of stunned and he was like, yeah. And that's what had the crowd go crazy like that because everybody was in shock. So that dude got some issues. That dude was sick. That dude had a problem. So I don't feel nothing for him either. So, but that's when MM was able to trace him back to the layer. So at that point, and I want to point on that because at that point you're starting to see, and I think this season does it a lot, but in the last few seasons you're starting to see the character of A-Train change a little bit.
Yeah, he has I said that he has become probably one of the more interesting characters with one of the most interesting redemption arcs, because like if you've seen him in the first few seasons, like you couldn't stand him. I mean, this guy, like literally the first time we seen him, he runs through Huey's girlfriend, killing her. Like he literally runs through her. That's like one of the first things we see in the show. And then he has a drug addiction. He basically killed his girlfriend. Some other things in the last season with his brother and all types of stuff like that. Like A-Train was like Mr. I can't do right at all, even though he kept trying to change, but there was always some things, there was always a conflict. But this season he had one of the more interesting redeeming arcs, and one of the things they always say is when people have a redeeming arc like that, that means the person might end up dying.
Yeah.
Like right when they start to change.
Yeah, that's very true. And we talked about that. Like A-Train is a very interesting character because I remember the first couple seasons you couldn't stand him because not only did he run through Huey's girlfriend, remember there was a video camera footage, and this is in season 1, where he was bragging about it. He didn't feel any remorse when Huey went to the VOT headquarters or Tower VOT, whatever they call it, to get an apology to A-Train. A-Train didn't care. Like A-Train was like one of the most selfish people He didn't care about anybody but himself, didn't care about being a real hero, a role model, or anything. And then you see throughout the course, now we're not going to go back through every single detail because we already discussed it, but through the course of, you know, him talking to his brother, him seeing his brother get paralyzed by Blue Hawk and everything, and you seeing kind of the way he is being treated by Homelander too, and that's a big
Mhm.
point too. His disconnect with his hatred and vitriol with Homelander, also his rivalry with the Deep, because they got into it, and I think season 3
Three.
as well
Yeah.
too. So we're starting to see this change in the in A Train.
Yeah.
So A
But he al-
Train,
but he also did something this season that like pissed me off too. But we haven't gotten there yet. When we get there, I'll speak to it.
okay, cool, yeah. Um, so A Train takes the bodies. The whole plan was to start a riot and to take the bodies that they bashed in and then to drop the bodies there while the riot was going on, and then the media was going to pick that up, and the media was going to blame Starlight's crew, like the Starlighters, for saying,
Hmm.
oh, look at what they did to these Homelander supporters,
Hmm.
which is what they did.
And that's how
Another,
Sage kicked it off.
yeah.
Cause
Yeah, and Sage did, because
she
everything was
yeah,
calm.
yeah, she had went there and she was dressed like one of the Starlight supporters, and she got to the front of the barricade and she threw something at one of the people on the opposing side and called him something, and then that's when they jumped over and she kind of faded into the background, and then that's when they started fighting, and then that's when they noticed that it was the two bodies there from that were dead, and then that's why they tried to say, oh, it was Starlight, instigating it, or her people instigating it.
Yeah, yeah. Now, this is the situation. Now, and I think that's, if I remember, I think that might be the. It's another thing
But,
weird too. I just got to.
but I think this right here was also what gave isn't this like where Firecracker kind of got her inspiration, like her way to start doing her thing against Starlight, because she was going in on Starlight, but we just never knew why. And that's, it has to be personal because she keeps going in on her, and then of course later on we do learn there's a history that the
Yeah,
both of them have going back to when they were children.
yeah. I think okay. So Starlight, if I'm is because they were showing like little clips of her podcast.
Yeah.
Like she had a small little podcast. There's this character, a new character named Firecracker.
Who reminds me so much of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Oh my god, I was just about to say that. He is so much like her. Oh, like down to the way she talks and everything.
Mhm.
Okay.
Even I even noticed that even like when they did some of the close-ups of her with just her face, she even looked like her. I don't know if that was intentional, like put in the makeup department to have her made up to look like her, but even in the face, she looked like her, even sounded like her, had the mannerisms and everything.
Yeah. Acted exactly like her.
You
So,
know what's also crazy is someone I had read somewhere. Someone said that Sister Sage reminded them of Candace Owens.
mm, that's interesting. I got to think about that. Sister Sage is is a very interesting person because, and we're gonna get into this a little bit. I personally think that she has like her own little motive with this.
Oh, definitely. She definitely has her own agenda. There's no doubt in my mind that she does, especially with that last line she said at the end of the season, but we'll get there.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that happens. So the character Firecracker has a huge issue with Starlight.
Mhm.
Always talking about her on her podcast. Now you can see on her podcast, she's a crazy conspiracy theorist, like
Yeah,
crazy. Like there's
yeah,
every no
yeah,
conspiracy she don't
yeah,
believe in.
she's like one of them QAnon people.
Yeah. Um. Then I guess we got to bring some. I'm just gonna touch on a little bit. Frenchie is apparently gay, which is
Yeah,
kind.
when I saw that, I was like, I'm gonna be honest. When I saw that, I said, okay, where did that come from? Like, I'm like, because I'm trying to think to myself, like all these seasons, like they always hinted at Frenchie and Kimiko like being a thing. Of course, we never saw them actually do anything, but they always had them together. Like whenever they had to do missions, whenever they split up as a team, they always had Frenchie and Kimiko together because she was the only one that could really communicate with him because she spoke with sign language. And you know, they always hinted that maybe there is something there. So when I saw this, I was like, wait a minute, where did this
Yeah.
come from? I was like, where did this come from?
That threw me off. And they started making.
I think it threw everybody off.
Yeah. And they started making out in the middle of the riot too.
Right, that's what we first saw, and we was like, "Wait a minute!" You know, like you hear the record scratch. That's what played in. That's what played in my head. I was like, "Wait a minute! When did this? How did this happen?"
It completely threw me off because you're absolutely correct. Throughout the whole series, they always hinted at Frenchie and Kimiko having there's clearly some type of connection and chemistry, even if it wasn't like romantic. They clearly had a chemistry to where most people just assume that okay, they're probably going to wind up being together.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They're the only two. They're the closest on the team, probably besides Huey and Starlight.
Starlight, yeah.
Who's actually in an official relationship. They're like the closest to being in a relationship like that.
Oh, speaking of relationship, I actually found out that the actor that plays Huey and the actress who plays Victoria are actually a couple in real life.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I didn't know it. Wow. That's interesting. So, okay. So he does that. Now, they're trying to get news on so the team splits up, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is where Homeland this is where Butcher tells the team that he's dying.
Mm-hmm.
He tells the team about that. MM kicks him off the team.
Yeah.
And a lot of people thought it was cruel for him to do that, and he doesn't know why. A lot of people didn't understand MM's frustration with Butcher throughout this season.
Yeah.
Because at this whole season, MM is like very at his wit's end with Butcher.
Yeah, definitely.
So, in my opinion, I'm gonna be fair. I'm gonna say why I think MM has such a big issue with Butcher is because they have a plan, and then Butcher has his own little plan in the plan, and then in the middle of the plan, he just kind of does his own thing.
Right.
And Butcher is kind of reckless and careless, and this stuff leads to repeated failures in the team.
Right.
Like we saw in the very first episode. I think that was a perfect example, because if Butcher would have kept his post, then Ryan and the other girl would have been distracted or whatever, but Butcher told the other girl to leave, which almost cost the life of Kimiko and Frenchie.
Yeah.
Because Butcher didn't keep his, and also Huey, because Butcher didn't keep his post. So I think these are the reasons. Now, he might have been a little bit harsh, not gonna lie, but I think these are the reasons which lead to the frustration that MM is having with Butcher. So he kicks him off the team or whatever. Don't matter, because Butcher's still showing up. So MM was able to trace Sage's phone to a conspiracy theory convention.
Oh God, I know where this is headed. Yeah. I know where this is headed.
They go there. It's a whole bunch of, and it gives a lot of, I'm not gonna lie, it gives a lot of like the alt-right feel. You get a ton of like alt-right feeling with this.
Yeah, definitely.
Everybody's there is white. It's a whole bunch of little subliminal white nationalist themes and stuff like that in there. So as they're talking, oh Lord, okay, let me brace myself for this. So Firecracker, she has her right-hand man is a guy, he's a suit who can multiply himself. He splits like in half, and he has multiple different copies of himself. Think of like kind of like Naruto. You know how Naruto can do the clone jutsu thing, if you guys know about that. or another character is another character, an X-Men who can do that too.
Yeah.
But in both those characters, there's still one main prime, is one main character. The other ones are just copies.
Like duplicates.
Exactly. So they're trying to figure out, because none of them have any idea why Sage is there. They're trying to figure out why Sage is there. They find out that this dude, actually, hold on. They find out that this dude is in love with Firecracker. He's in love with Firecracker, and they follow him to this locker room. And he is using his clones. Oh my god, he's using
Yeah,
his clones.
I know it's hard to say it. That's why I said when you got to the convention part, I was like, oh god, I know what part we at.
Yeah. It's hard to, because I'm not gonna lie, the boys show some very graphic stuff sometimes.
It's very raunchy. It's very raunchy.
Yeah. I say he's using his. It's a lot of clones. The room is full of clones.
Yeah, I'll put it like this way. Think of Human Centipede.
Oh Lord. Oh.
I think that's the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
And then he had a printout picture of Firecracker's face on, I guess that may be the main one, so they could have a visual that was her while they were
Yes, pleasing themselves.
Yes.
So yeah, that happened, and they were in a convention, and they wound up getting caught or whatever, because Sage knew that they were following her. It was a whole trap. Sage knew that. So they were about to get executed, and the guy wound up getting pink eye due to certain fecal matter in his face. Self-inflicted. In his face. So with that created an opening, and they were able to fight the guys off.
Well, first off, when they were fighting him, he was also naked.
Yeah. When he splits, and he's butt naked. So they're fighting a whole bunch of butt naked dudes. I'm telling you, that show, sometimes it just be going over the top. They wind up killing the Prime, which killed all of the clones.
Yeah.
Now, the way they found this out was very interesting, because I think it was no, A-Train didn't tip him off. A-Train tipped him off to something else. Okay, so I'm not skipping ahead. At that time, Huey and Starlight are following A-Train, and A-Train's meeting with his nephews, and he's telling his nephews about his heroic stories.
This is the part that I was saying the part that kind of pissed me off with A-Train right here.
Yeah.
He was telling them these stories, and of course, his nephews are young. They're gonna hang off of every word because their uncle was a soup. So of course, like, he can tell them anything and they'll believe it. And then of course, who comes rolling up? Literally his brother, who already has animosity towards A-Train anyway. And then that's when his brother basically blows the whole cover and saying like what it actually was. He's like, your uncle didn't do all these things that he's telling you. He said they were basically all, pretty much staged. Like, they weren't the way, almost like a Hollywood event. It wasn't the way that it played out. And he got mad at him again. And I'm like, why would you do that to your nephews? And if your brother finds out that you lied to them, he's already mad at you. Now you just made him pissed off all over again for something completely different. Because he said, you're going to sit up there and just sit and tell these lies to your nephews about the stuff that you're doing. I'm sitting like, oh my God, A-Train, like, you just can't get right for shit. Like, I'm like, why did you sit up there and tell them those lies like that? You didn't even have to embellish. You didn't even have to get on that as a topic of discussion. Because at that point right there, I think Starlight and Huey were like staked out and they were looking at him, but they didn't go after him because he was there with his nephews. And they saw his brother roll up and then he left. And then that's after they left, he took off, but they didn't go after him. At least not at that moment.
Yeah, that's true. And that's one thing too. And I also think this goes into the psyche of A Train.
Yeah.
Early in this point, A Train has an identity crisis.
Hmm.
A Train, he wants to be like respected, but A Train is battling, I think, internally with this like hero and villain thing where A Train knows that he ain't shit, pretty much.
Yeah.
He knows that, and he's lying to his family, so his family, his nephews, which is really sad because his nephews are gonna, like you said, believe anything their uncle. First off, is their uncle. Second off, their uncle's a superhero in their eyes. So he's doing that so he can get some validation from them.
Yeah.
Now it's not like they were just kicking it with their uncle and they were just like getting some ice cream or something like that, and the dad rolls up and starts snapping off. But he's literally like all and every single story he told him was a lie. He didn't say one true thing.
Yeah. And I also think it's a thing that the stories that A Train is telling is probably stories that he wishes could actually happen. Like it was
Yeah.
playing out like it's almost like a kid when they pretend like they're a superhero and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna go save this person, save this person." In his mind, that's what he wishes could happen, but he knows that's he's come to the point where it probably will never happen because he couldn't tell his nephews what he actually does because they would be scarred for life.
Yeah. And they wouldn't respect him
Right.
ever. Especially if they know all the dirt he's done. I mean,
Oh
just the
yeah.
fact that he's a phony is one thing. Now, turns out A Train saw Starlight and Huey. And later on, when they went back to their HQ, A Train was already there by the time they even got there. A Train was there, and A Train gave both of them the surveillance footage of the guys that they had accused of bashing the Homelander fans' head in and acquitted them.
Yeah.
Now, what something else a lot of people I don't think notice is that all because they accused 3 guys, the guys that they accused were all black men.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, oh, that's a little interesting thing that they kind of put in there. But of course, they would blame it all on some black men. And A Train came and he said he did that out of appreciation that they didn't bust him out in front of his nephews,
Right.
which they could have and was in their right to do, to be honest.
Now
So
that plays now that plays right into reality. You know, Operation Blame the Black Man.
yeah, it does. And I find it very interesting because and I know Tori, and I know you're gonna agree with me on this. There's a news anchor. I already know what you're gonna say. I'm not even gonna
Oh
say it.
yes. Oh
I'm not even gonna
yes.
say it. Who does this? Because there's a news anchor on like the Vox
Cameron Cole.
channels.
And
You
he's
know,
been around. And he's been around for like all the other seasons too.
yeah. Who does he remind you of?
Tucker Carlson.
I knew it. I knew you was
Hands
gonna say that.
down, that is Tucker Carlson, and he's a freak because you know him and Ashley be doing some kink stuff.
Yeah. And they was doing that in the previous season too.
Yeah.
This dude is so like Tucker Carlson. So when essentially this guy comes up there and he blames the black guy, I'm like, this is exactly like Fox News.
Fox News, exactly. It's just like Fox News.
So he does that and he frees them. And this is like kind of the second part in this season of A Train. You're starting to see his redemption thing go on a little bit.
Yeah.
Or whatever. So MM finds out now at this time, Huey gets a phone call from his dad. He doesn't pick up the call. The call goes to voicemail. Then he gets a call later that his dad has a stroke. So he's kind of losing his mind and he goes to the hospital.
Yeah.
I think this is don't get me wrong, all of these things happen. We're giving you all of the big facts of the situation. He goes to the hospital. He meets his mom. He hasn't seen his mom since childhood, since he was 6 years old. He's a grown man now, so he gets into it with his mom because he feels guilty or whatever the case is.
And we find out she works for Vought.
Yeah, and that's another thing that's eating up at him. So he's just like going off.
Yeah.
So he has MM has a thing of trying to, because they are out of options, because the acid that they thought was going to work didn't work, not even on Newman, and they knew it wasn't going to work on Homelander. So
Yeah.
they all like they have no idea what to do. So MM has the plan to flip A Train, because MM is starting to peep the signs that A Train is kind of turning.
Exactly.
So MM hacks into his brother's phone and then sets up a meeting or whatever. And then he's like trying to talk to him. And at first, A Train was not going. A Train was pissed off because that he thought he was meeting his brother,
Uh-huh.
and he ran there to kind of fix the relationship with his brother. And he was upset. He saw MM. He was like, "What the hell is this?" And whatever the case is. And MM was kind of trying to talk him like, "Man, I know you want to do the right thing, man. Help us out or whatever." And A Train doesn't give him a definite answer. He just leaves. But the seed is kind of planted there
Uh-huh.
or whatever.
Because like
Uh,
you can tell A Train is like he you can tell he's conflicted. He's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Like he doesn't know, he wants to do it, but he feels like he's in a position where he can't.
yeah. Yeah. So this leads now. I think I think A Train at some point in time, I don't remember what point in time, he did let them know that, I think it was during that thing with he did let them know that Homelander and Victoria are having a meeting at this the 7 on Ice thing, and they're having a secret meeting
Oh,
there. Now,
yeah.
side note, Kamiko and Frenchie is like panicking right now because the dude the guy he's with, he remembers the fact that he killed his whole family.
Yep.
So he's having a crisis. Kamiko sees like some, I guess the whoever kidnapped her or something, because she was like in human trafficking. So
Yeah, like
she
she was
sees
like
a
in a
sign of that.
she was like she was like in a camp.
Yeah. She sees a sign of that and she wants to go over there and stop it. And she brings Frenchie with her. Frenchie is hallucinating the whole time. Kamiko's doing all of that stuff. And they see a girl that Kamiko, she cut her face or whatever. So she's having like a battle because she used to be like a gun for hire. She used to be a hitman, essentially. And Kamiko used to be that too. So they're both having their little crisis go on at that time. So that's just a side thing. I think the bigger story is now Huey and MM are together and they're spying on Homelander and Victoria.
Yeah.
And
Isn't Sister Sage with them too?
yeah, she is. Yeah, she is. I forgot that. So Huey is in an event and he's listening in on the conversation. So
And it was at this point where I was like, Huey, why didn't you just plant the microphone and leave? You wanted to hear the whole conversation. Like MM could hear it. Like, why didn't you just plant it and leave? He got intrigued by what they were saying and just stayed there. And then when he was sweating, if a piece of his sweat fell on Homelander's suit, and he got that hyper hearing, he heard it.
yeah.
And he looked up and said, "There's no leak in the pipes." And then that's when he said, "Somebody's watching us." But I think also too, because not only could he hear it, but he could smell it. And he was like, "That's not regular like water from a leak. That's sweat, because I can smell the salt in the sweat." So that's how he knew.
Yeah.
Somebody was up there watching. I was like, Huey, why didn't you just leave the mic and go?
He should have. He didn't, because they bought up, because Victoria nor Homelander knew why Sage picked Firecracker. Everybody's like, "Oh, this girl is crazy. She's a nut job. Why is he picking her?" And Sage said she picked Firecracker because she knew Firecracker was going to take out Starlight. And what's interesting about this is that, not physically, because to be very honest, Firecracker is not that powerful at all.
Yeah, she really does. Like, Firecracker doesn't really have. Well, if she does have powers, we didn't see them this season.
No.
Like
I don't know.
well, the only thing that she has on her side is is the ability to manipulate what she did.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So besides that, yeah, I mean, that's what caught Huey because Huey's there. Huey did not follow the plan. He wound up getting caught. So Homelander is trying to catch Huey. Homelander is laser visioning the air. Now, what's interesting about it is I looked it up. The reason why a lot of people's like, well, Homelander can see through walls and everything. Why couldn't he see through Huey? Because Homelander was missing the whole time.
Yeah.
Because Huey was crawling through the vent, and Homelander couldn't catch Huey. In season 1 of The Boys, Homelander said he can't see through lead or something like that. It's a certain thing, kind of like Superman.
Yeah.
Superman can't see through lead. His X-ray vision can't see through lead. Homelander can't see. It's some type of item. I don't think it's lead exactly. We'll just say lead for the sake of the argument. But there's some molecule or something like that that Homelander can't see through that the vent was coated in.
Yeah.
So Homelander can't see Huey. He's just kind of guessing where he's at, or whatever the case is.
And then it all went downhill from there.
Yeah. MM tries to save Huey by flashing a big light in Homelander's face, which causes him to kind of get blinded for a second. So Homelander's heat vision going all over the place. And that became a big mess because then there's stars dancing on the stage. Homelander's heat vision cuts straight through him.
Yeah,
now everybody's trying to get
he
out.
cut one ahead. Yeah, and they all. It looked like something out of Final Destination. Like it was like one. It was like one triggering thing. Like people, like one person got sliced through because of his laser. Somebody got cut by the blade. I think somebody's fingertips got cut off by the blade. It was crazy.
Yeah,
it was a bunch. It was blood all over that ice.
Yeah, it was. And it was like a Final Destiny because it was like one thing it was like a chain reaction of terrible things. People slipping and then people, it was nasty. It was blood all over the place. Homelander's still looking for Huey though. And he goes outside where Huey just ran outside. He goes outside and can't find Huey. And then he just flies off. And turns out A-Train saved Huey.
He ended
and
up
this
in
was
an
a
alley.
big surprise.
Yeah, he because I was like, where did Huey go? Like, how did he hide so fast? And the next thing you know, Huey pops up in an alley somewhere, and I'm like, how did he get there so fast? And then they pan the camera, and it was A-Train.
Yeah. So, and this is another incident where you can start to see because A-Train didn't have to do that at all, and Homelander would have ripped Huey apart if he.
Sure.
Because Homelander's had the opportunity to do so, but he hasn't done it. But the thing is that now Huey knows Homelander's plan, so Homelander definitely would have got rid of Huey at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
But A-Train saved him, which was a big surprise or whatever. So this leads to later on. Now remember we said earlier that Huey's father had a stroke and is in a hospital and is in a coma now, and the doctors are saying that he probably won't wake up. Now this also makes Huey mad too. I forgot to mention this also makes Huey mad too because he finds out that his mom is the power of attorney over his father, and his mom wants to pull the plug. Were you saying something?
No, I wasn't saying anything.
So he's feeling kind of betrayed by his dad. He's hurt by his mom or whatever. He wants his dad to live. So Huey comes up with a plan to use, was it not Temp V, Compound V. He wants to use Compound V to save his dad. So now Huey goes and he reaches out to A-Train and tells A-Train, yeah, I know we had our issue, whatever. I mean, you ran through my girlfriend, not ran through, but like you literally obliterated my girlfriend. I'm going to forgive you if you do this because you owe me one. If you do this, I'm going to save my, because at first A-Train was like, no, I'm not doing that because Homelander has all of the Compound V. Yeah, and he would have to break into Homelander's room in order to take it. So he didn't want to do it, but he was like, "Oh, if you do it, I'll forgive you for everything." So that convinced A Train to do it.
Yep, and then A Train goes and he retrieves the compound V, and that's when he opens up the jar and he sees the jar with the hair in it. And I said it's more hair in it this time than it was the first time we saw it.
Yeah,
And then he opens up the drawer and he sees the compound V, but then he hears a noise and he looks around, and who comes from behind the corner is Ashley. And we're sitting there wondering, like, why is Ashley in Homelander's room? And he asked her that basically that same question. And she said, "Oh, I'm not doing anything." And then A Train runs to where she was at and quickly runs back. And he said, "You dropped the floater in the toilet." So she was in there. So she was in there using a good bathroom. I said that's so realistic, because you got people that love, like, if they go to a public place, they don't like using the public, like the ones that everybody else uses. They want to go use the nice restrooms. So they said,
yeah,
Ashley was like, I could use any of these restrooms on the employee floor, but why use that when I can come here and use this one? And I bet you she's done this several times. Like, she knows when Homeland is not going to be there, and she's going to go and use the restroom. And then that's when they have like a little confrontation. And this right here actually sets up the thing where you have Ashley and A Train kind of having a thing where they're going back and forth with each other because of a conflict that they both have working for Vought, A Train being in the 7 and Ashley basically being the CEO. And then that's when she talks to him about, like, confronts him about the V. But then it's like they have something on each other to the point where either one of them told the other one can snitch on the other one. So that's what they just kind of leave it at that.
yeah. It's like a truce.
Yeah, it's like a truce. And then he leaves and he goes and finds Huey and gives him the compound V.
Yes. Now, the reason why Ashley's having this issue, now we've seen Ashley kind of get terrorized the whole time. Ashley is scared to death.
Yes.
The reason
now
why
she's the definition of a jelly bag.
Yeah, yeah. The reason why Ashley's having this issue is because Ashley is pretty much kicked out. Homelander said essentially all of the CEO positions, that's going to Sage. You're just going to be the face.
Yeah.
So essentially you're fired, or whatever the case is. Ashley then wants to quit. She had resignation papers, but there was this one girl, when they were trying to quote unquote find the leak, one girl says she had some information. In the split second she said anything, Homelander blew her head off. Right in front of Ashley. And Sage. Sage was right there too, because Sage didn't like that either. Exactly. So Ashley's scared to death of Homelander.
Yeah, she had the resignation papers drawn up, and when she saw that, I think she went back to her office and she ripped them papers up and threw it away. She says, "Oh, I can't give those resignation papers now, because if I do, I'm not making it out of here alive." So she says, "I'm gonna have to stay here a little bit longer."
Yeah. I think this is the part, it might have been before, but I think this is the part 2 where they try to set up Homelander's son Ryan to do his first save. Now, I want you guys to keep in mind, all of this stuff, most of the saves that they do are really fake. They're staged. So they have actors come in, or whatever the case, and they pretend to do a bank robbery, and the superhero comes in, and this is all for publicity. Now, interesting is that the Deep tries to get Ashley to be like, "Hey, can I be a part of this?" or whatever, and Ashley blows him off. Because this is right after Ashley got fired.
Yeah.
And then Sage gasses the Deep's head up. It's like, "Hey, you shouldn't let her talk to you like that. You're a higher life form. You're better than her," or whatever. And then the Deep goes to Ashley and kind of threatens Ashley. And that makes Ashley fold and put the Deep in Ryan's save. So it's the Deep, Noir, and Ryan. And they work on, how they're going to do the save or whatever the case is. Now, they were working on their brand. Homelander, and this is funny. I thought this was funny. They came up with a costume for Ryan and the costume is an exact replica of Homelander's costume.
Yeah.
Everything about it was the same thing. And Ryan kind of wasn't feeling it. And Sage came up with the idea that Ryan should be his own man. Ryan shouldn't be like the sidekick of Homelander.
Right.
Homelander has an ego problem. So Homelander really doesn't, he agrees to it, but he doesn't like it. They said Ryan's first save should be by himself. It shouldn't be with Homelander.
Mm-hmm.
And they're practicing this push. And this is a big part. Practicing this push they're supposed to give to the actor. Mind you, this is not a criminal, this is an actor. So during the bank robbery, everything's going on. Everybody's reading their script or doing whatever. Ryan grabs the dude's arm and he's supposed to say some heroic line like, I'm just Ryan, or whatever the case is. Then all of a sudden, Homelander just comes out. He flies down or whatever and gives Ryan like the motivating speech, and this is throwing Ryan off.
Mm-hmm.
So then he's all like, okay, push, now you gotta push him, now you gotta push him. So this, and Homelander wasn't supposed to do this. He wasn't supposed to be there. So Ryan is kind of getting thrown off because now he's kind of battling between him and Butcher, because Butcher is still talking to him or whatever. And we're gonna get to Butcher because Butcher's having his own thing going on in his head.
Definitely. Literally a thing.
Yeah. So Ryan pushes this guy so hard he flies into a whole building and splats on the wall like a bug.
Right. That was crazy. So technically that was no, that was Ryan's second kill.
Yeah, that was.
Because remember, he accidentally killed his mother in the end of the second season. But that was an accident. But this one right here, so this is technically his second kill right here. And Ryan is like stood there, like they're all shocked that this is going on. But of course, Homelander, he the only one that finds joy in it.
Yeah. And Ryan is beat up about it, and Homelander's like, why do you care? Homelander is like really not getting why he even cares at all. So Butcher is going on, and I think it's easier for us to do it like this because we're talking about the main incidents. We're not talking about every little detail, but the main things that drove the season.
Yeah.
So Butcher is meeting up with this guy that he used to, his old war buddy or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
And the interesting is this war buddy is the character who played Negan on the Walking Dead TV show.
Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
Yes. Everybody knows him as Negan. That's that he's been in some other things.
I've seen him when he was in that movie. Remember a movie The Watchmen?
Yeah, I saw him in that too.
He played the comedian.
Yeah, he did. And I think that was before he did The Walking Dead.
Oh yeah. Watchmen came out in 2009.
Yep, I remember. My parents didn't let me watch that movie.
He played a scumbag in that movie as well.
Yeah, so I mean that's just he plays it well. I ain't gonna lie to you.
He plays it really well.
So he's coming up with it's gonna be an interesting plot twist with that. So he's coming up with his their plan, and this guy, what was the character's name?
I forgot his name. I'm gonna be honest with you.
I'm just gonna call him.
We call him Negan.
Yeah, we're just gonna call him Negan. So Negan is talking to Butcher, and Butcher's whole idea is to get Ryan away from Homelander, and like I guess save Ryan, or he can't raise him because Butcher's already planning on dying in like 6 months.
Yeah.
So he just wants he wants to save Ryan from Homelander. Like that's his biggest thing, to save Ryan. Negan is all like, no, well, his first plan was we're gonna have to capture Ryan. We're gonna have to essentially program Ryan to fight against Homelander, because Ryan, essentially, from what they've seen so far, Ryan's powers are just like Homelander's powers.
Yeah.
Ryan has the same powers. He has the heat vision. That's why he was able to he heat blast Stormfront in the last season. Well, I think that was that season 2?
Season
I think
2.
that was season 2.
Okay.
He has super strength. Ryan, at this point in time, I don't think Ryan can fly yet. Have we seen him fly yet?
Yeah, he did. Remember at the end of season 3 when Homelander was saying I have someone I want y'all to meet and he came down
Oh
and he was floating
yeah,
down.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But we
okay,
haven't
yeah.
but we haven't seen him like take flight sort of like how Homelander does, just like shoot off.
Okay.
But we know that he has the ability to fly.
Okay. So yeah, so he's pretty much the same thing as Homelander. So Negan is trying to convince Butcher we need to train him to kill Homelander. Butcher's not for that. Butcher doesn't want to do that or whatever the case is. So Butcher eventually he gets Ryan, he brings him to it, they're bonding. Butcher has a whole bunch of drugs that he was planning on drugging Ryan, and he put it in cookies.
Yeah.
And then eventually he was going to try to get Ryan to eat the cookies. He was going to pass out and then he was going to kidnap him. But eventually Butcher threw the cookies away because he decided not to do it. So he's having this issue with him and Negan are fighting over what they're going to do with that. And then in the shower, he bumps his head.
Yeah, he kind of has a moment where he falls and he hits his head. I was like, oh,
yeah.
That's one of my, and I'm gonna be honest with you, that's one of my biggest fears is falling in the shower.
Yeah,
that's one of my biggest fears.
Yeah, and what's scary about that, just side note, what's scary about that is if you're in the shower, especially if you're in a house by yourself,
yeah,
and nobody hears you fall, you could be there for hours.
Exactly.
You know, and nobody, and the thing is that if people just, even if somebody was in the house, they're gonna think you're in the shower. Nobody's gonna like walk in on you.
Yeah, and the thing is, when he fell, he hit his head like on that metal knob, like the one when you turn the water on and off, where you adjust the temperature of the water. That's what he hit his head on.
Yeah. Yeah, so that he woke up and he saw his ex-wife.
Yep. The one that Ryan accidentally killed.
Yeah.
Who was actually Ryan's mother when you put it in perspective.
Yeah. And it's almost like a conscious, like, you know how you have the devil on your shoulder and the angel on your shoulder?
She was the angel.
That's what's going on with Butcher. So Butcher's battling between which side he's gonna pick, who he's gonna go with. Eventually, now they have this thing with Starlight, and Starlight has her own, you know, crew or whatever the case is.
Yeah, they run like a shelter. I think.
Yeah, found some like foundation or something. So Stormfront, Lord. What's her name? Firecracker has like an event right outside
across the street,
the building. And she's going in on I keep saying Stormfront. She's going in on Starlight. She's talking about she's not this, she's not that. So Butcher, he gets some proof from this guy called Web Weaver. We're gonna run into him again. That Firecracker had sex with a 15-year-old boy, and he threatens to expose that. And to his surprise, she didn't have an issue with that. Now she's out there and she tries to play on this like kind of Christian thing or whatever the case, like the Christian all-American conspiracy theories.
Up there sounding like Joel Osteen.
Yeah, she did. Exactly. So they're doing that. So they was able to get into her RV and they're looking into stuff. Frenchie's looking into stuff, and that preacher guy comes in and he starts attacking Frenchie.
And he has like a stretch ability, like think of Mr. Fantastic from Fantastic Four.
Exactly. Butcher saves Frenchie, and Butcher's fighting the guy off, but the guy wraps his arm around Butcher's neck and starts strangling Butcher.
But don't forget that Butcher used that fire extinguisher to freeze one of his arms, and he broke it.
He did. Yeah. So they were kind of fighting, but the stretch guy, I forgot his name.
we forgot. Well, I don't know if you was getting ready to get to that part yet. We forgot to add about the part about why Starlight went over there.
Yeah, well, I was just
Oh,
about to
okay,
get to that.
okay.
So then, Butcher's about to pass out. He sees his ex-wife, and then he passes out. He wakes up. The preacher guy, pieces all over the place, blood all over the place. Butcher is drenched in blood. There's blood everywhere, and he doesn't know what happened.
We don't know what happened.
So he just leaves like, man, I don't know. So after all of this dissing or whatever, why to find out, because Starlight actually goes to she goes there to find out why Firecracker has some issue with her.
No, we find out what makes her go over there. Remember when Firecracker is talking, she put out that information that Starlight had got pregnant and she had an abortion.
Yeah, so that was before or after?
That was before. That's what made Starlight go over there.
Oh, okay.
She got a hold of her medical records, which is, that's a huge violation of HIPAA law. She got her medical records, and it turns out that she was pregnant. Huey got her pregnant, and she ended up getting an abortion. And then that's what made Starlight go over there and confront her. And trust me, after that, I would say, okay, now it's time to put some hands on it. Because one thing we forgot to mention is that the reason why Firecracker had a problem with Starlight was because, remember when I said they were kids, they was entering, they was doing those little child pageants and whatnot, and apparently Starlight's mother, who is not a good person at all, put stuff in her ear to say to the judges that Firecracker was basically having sex with the judges so she could win the pageants, even though it wasn't true, making up lies, and that's what she was using up against her. But it was her mother manipulating her to do it, and Firecracker never got over it. Now fast forward to this, Starlight goes over there for putting out there about her having an abortion, and then after that there were really not that many words. Starlight laid into her ass like she was going in.
Mm-hmm.
She was about to blast her with her, with her beam. She was ready to kill her. She was about to take her out.
Yeah, she was. Had
stopped her because they said the cameras are here and everything like that. But she blacked out at that moment. Like she couldn't take that anymore. At that point, she officially became an op.
Yeah, she did. And at that point, the damage was already done, because the thing is that Firecracker's event was live.
Yep.
So all of the cameras were catching her. There was nothing that they could do. Everybody was already seeing it. It was already going super viral at that point. Mm-hmm. And she pretty much beat this woman all close to death.
Yeah, and almost blasted her head off with her beam.
Yeah. Which ruins Starlight's reputation. She had a deal with the president-elect about passing a bill or something like that, and he had to drop out because of her reputation. So everything's going real bad for her. So she's having some type of crisis, because then she eventually, I think, now you're saying this happened after, right?
Which part?
Where Starlight confronts Firecracker about why that happened. That happened after the beatdown or before?
It was before.
Okay.
But yeah, the president-elect called her and basically said that the deal that they had was off because now her reputation has been tarnished. One thing I can say about this season is that it literally exposed a lot of characters' backstory and showed that they had some very dark things going on in the background that we didn't know. We saw with Starlight, we saw with Kimiko, and we saw with Frenchie. Those three in particular had some very shady past.
Yeah, we did.
That was brought to the forefront.
Yep. And speaking of shady past, what's interesting is that Ryan comes back from being around Butcher, pisses Homelander off, because at first Homelander asks, "Where were you?" and Ryan lied, and he's all like, "I can smell Butcher on you." Homelander has super smelling abilities. He has super sense.
Yeah.
and he lied, and Homelander starts freaking out like, why am I not good enough for you? Why? Because Homelander wants to be like this super. Homelander is still desperate for like love and approval, and it's seeming like he's not getting that from Ryan. Ryan is still very attached to Butcher.
Yeah, and Ryan is like the last. I guess you can say like the last bastion for him to have some kind of like love and attachment, because he is his son, and he feels like if he can't get the love and attention from his son, he's not going to get it from anybody.
Yeah.
And he feels like with him being his son and him being so young, he wants to manipulate him into, having his son love him, but that's not how this works. Like that has to be a natural thing. But see, the thing is, Homelander is always out for self. He doesn't know how to. He wants everyone to spread the love his way, but he doesn't know how to extend it back.
Exactly. He might love his son. I'm not even gonna say he doesn't, but the thing is that he wants the connection to his son, not for the benefit of his son. Everything he's doing is not for the benefit of his son, it's really for himself.
Exactly.
So he can feel like, look at how great I am. I'm a super dad. I'm just so great. It's all for himself, and Ryan is not connecting with it or whatever. Like Ryan didn't want a TV show. Ryan didn't want that costume. Ryan didn't want his dad to steal his spotlight or whatever. Ryan is not really connecting with his dad. So this causes Homelander to freak out, because Homelander's he has mental issues and he's not getting it. So he breaks this mirror and he's talking to himself. And he did this before in another season. He convinces himself he needs to kill his sense of needing love. He needs to kill that. So Homelander goes back to the lab where essentially he was bred in, where he was raised in. So Homelander goes back to, this is like some type of Vought secret lab where they're experimenting on soups, right? He goes there, he brings ice cream cake. And at first he gets there and he sees a lot of new people, but he sees some of the people who experimented on him.
Right.
Everybody is terrified that he showed up.
Because he never goes there.
Yeah. So at first he's kind of cool, like, hey, I just want to, shoot the breeze with everybody and things go on. So as he's doing that, then there's one guy and he's like playing these little games because everybody's terrified. He plays this waste basket basketball where ball up a piece of paper, you throw it in a waste basket, and it's like a game of basketball, kind of like shooting a ball in a hoop. And he reminds the dude to play it. And then he tells him about, there was this room, it was like a huge oven where they would put Homelander in as a kid to see if they can harm Homelander, like burn his skin or something. It didn't work.
He said I definitely felt the pain, but it wasn't enough to kill me.
Yeah. So at this point, they were pretty much doing anything they could just to see how durable Homelander was. So all of their methods and stuff like that they would use, like burning him and shooting at him, none of that, it hurt him, but it didn't kill him. So he tells the guy to get in that room. Now, mind you, this guy's a regular human. This is a regular old man. He tells him, get in that room or he's going to put his whole family in that room. So the guy walks in that room and he presses that button, and in seconds, this dude burnt all the way up.
Yep, like it was nothing left in there but bone and ash. And he was like in a fetal position too, like when he did it.
Yeah. It was,
and they all had to sit there and watch. And I said it's crazy because he gave them the cake and they ate it before he started doing it. So now it's like they just ate this. They just ate this cake. They got that stuff in their stomach, and now they about to be sick watching all of this. but I think that was nothing compared to what he did to the next dude.
I
Woo!
was about to say, I think that was that
I
was
think that
murder.
was because, well, first off, it was a humiliation thing, and then he murdered him. Like, it was crazy because, okay, so the next guy is this another older guy, and he just basically talks to him. I forgot what his name is, but it's kind of not important because it's like they weren't like major characters anyway. And he basically said that y'all left me alone. Like, I got to that age where I wanted to start experimenting with my body, like boys do when they get to a certain age, like puberty. And he says, I'm just going, and he's basically he's playing with himself. Like, just put it out there. That's what he was doing. And he said, y'all would just like come by the room and laugh at me, and then you called me squirt. And I was like, why? At first I was like, huh? And then it dawned on me what they were talking about. And then he said, y'all were just like kind of making fun of me because that's just like a natural thing that teenage boys who are going through that phase typically will do. So he told him to stand right there. He said, so here's what I want you to do. And I'm just paraphrasing. He said, I want you to pull down your pants and start jacking off right here in front of all of us until you get hard and basically come. Like, that's what he wanted him to do. And he wanted him to do that in front of everybody that was down there. Mind you, it's like about 6 people in that room, including Homeland. Well, maybe about 8 people that's in that room when that is happening, and the guy literally can't do it. He's making fun of him. He said, oh, he looks like he got a little mushroom tip. When he said that, I was laughing so hard, and Homelander was laughing so maniacally. Like, he was hitting that Joker laugh hard. Like, he was like literally clowning this dude. And what got me was when the guy spit on his head because he couldn't get an erection to save his life, literally not to save his life. And he said, okay. He said, get hard. He said, if you don't, he says, I'm gonna blow your dick off. And I'm gonna laser your dick off. And that's what he did. And he kept trying. He's like, okay. He says, typically people have that problem where they can't get an erection. He says, well, not me. He said, not me. And then all of a sudden, Homelander stuck to his word, and he lasered his dick off. And it went through his ass. Like, you could literally see the hole, like, on the other side. And all you saw was, when it was blood and stuff coming out there. And then Homelander went over to look at him. He said, you get penis guts all over my boots. And then after he did that, it was a woman that came in. I think her name was Barbara or something like that. She had came in, and she was the one that kind of calmed him down because she was like one of the head people that was there. Like, she was their boss. She wasn't there. Remember, he was asking, where's Barbara? And he said, oh, she's sick, but she came in. And then all of a sudden, she just said, just put him out of his misery. And then that's when he did the 8-town stomp on him and crushed his head.
Yeah. So that was way worse than what he did to the first guy.
Yeah, definitely.
At
least with the first guy, he got burned. Even though, like, I'm sure that's bad enough because that's literally flesh burning. But that guy literally got his balls blown off, and then he got his head stomped on.
Yeah. And he was bleeding there for a good minute too.
Oh yeah, he was bleeding badly. Like, at that point, just put him out of his misery. He might as well. And Homelander said, okay, let's go into this room. And she's like, no, let's go and talk to my office. He's like, no, let's go in this room.
Yeah. Which was the room that they would lock him in.
Yeah.
Or whatever. And now what's interesting about
it was like a torture chamber.
Yeah. And now what's interesting about what I found the most interesting about that whole thing is because he's like snapping off on her, and she's kind of cool, calm. She was all like, you could have broke out anytime you wanted. We couldn't have kept you if we wanted to be honest. You could have left. There's nothing we could have did to stop you. But we played these psychological games to make you not want to leave. And this kind of explains Homelander's psyche. Because Barbara told Homelander, we use therapists, the best therapists around the world, to control you, to make you desperate and dependent on our approval and love. Which is why Homelander feels that way as an adult. This desperate need for approval and love that he has.
Yeah. And they have like that whole conversation right there. and then all of a sudden some other stuff happened in the episode, but then when they come back, all you see is Homelander covered in blood. Like he's
Yeah.
literally covered from head to toe in blood, and then they pan out and you look around the room and it's blood splattered all over the walls, and he basically killed all the remaining people that was in that room. He killed the rest of the people, like the people in the lab, except her. What
Yeah.
he did, except Barbara, he left Barbara alive. He says, well, here's your torture. I'm going to leave you down here so you can stay in this room and see what I've done. Like he's basically going to torture her by making her stay in a room with a bunch of dead bodies that he basically obliterated.
Yeah. And if you
As far
notice,
as we know, she's probably still down there.
yeah, because if when they panned out, you saw he lasered the door shut,
Yeah.
so she's stuck in that room.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, talk about some torture, man. The psychological damage that's going to do to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, but that was yeah. And what's crazy about it is as he went back on the elevator drenched in blood, you saw him laughing.
Mm-hmm.
This dude had a big maniacal evil laugh.
Yep.
So now this leads us to the next episode. Remember we said that A-Train gave Huey Compound V to save his dad. Huey eventually he didn't want to do it because Butcher talked him out of it. Huey's mom gave Huey's dad the Compound V, and everything seemed like it was going cool. Everything was fine, and then his dad was having memory problems where he was forgetting stuff and he was having little episodes or whatever. Huey left to get some coffee. He comes back. His dad is gone. His mom don't know where his dad is. Turns out his dad has powers.
Yeah, he has
They're
phasing
looking
powers.
around, and his dad is killing a bunch of nurses, doctors, patients, everything.
Yeah. See, so basically, like when they go into because they're looking for him, and they go into a room and they see him, and they just see his back turned to a window, and we don't know why he's there. And then they pan the camera around, and it's a doctor laid out on the ground, covered in blood, and he turns around and he's holding the person's heart in his hand, like he literally ripped this person's heart out of their chest, and then he drops it. And then he runs into something happens and he runs into another room, like he phases through the wall into another room. And in that room, we see a patient flirting with this doctor or this nurse. And then he runs into the room and he phases right through the bed and into the man's stomach. And all his guts is just literally spilling out onto the floor. He's turning around and more blood and guts is falling onto the floor. And it's like that whole thing was wild.
Yeah.
That was wild. And the crazy part about it is, it's crazy because if his dad was in his right state of mind, he would have been a good asset to the team.
He really would have, because that's a really useful superpower.
And then all of a sudden he leaves out of that room, and then Huey and his mother confront him, and he's in the hallway, and he's having a moment where he's remembering when Huey was a little boy. I forgot they had went somewhere. I think it was like a circus or something. It was somewhere they went when he was a kid. But then when he confronts his mother, his tone goes from happy and joyful to almost like vengeful and like mad. Like he remembers her, like to the point where he wanted to take her out because he remembers what she did. It's like something triggered where it wasn't a good, like happy memories with her. Then a security guy comes in and tries to shoot, like, threatens to shoot him. He runs up to the security and rips his heart out.
Yeah. So it was really messed up. I mean, he was killing everybody in that hospital.
Yeah, and they realize, okay, like they're gonna have to do something because he's not in his right state of mind, and like he's not gonna be able to be controlled. So then that's when Huey and his mother come up with the plan, like, okay, we're gonna have to inject him with something that's gonna kill him. And that was probably one of the more sadder moments of this season, was them having to basically kill Huey's father. And them having to do it and having to watch it happen, and it's like a slow death, and like watching him say that, I don't want to die and all this type of stuff like that. So that was probably one of the more sadder moments of the entire season, for sure.
Yeah, it was. And
especially when you have and I think it hit me because when he had the memory loss, it reminded me of my late grandmother because she went through Alzheimer's.
Oh,
So when I think about like that it reminded me of what she went through, and I'm sure anybody who has a family member or a close friend or whatever the case may be who goes through Alzheimer's or dementia, if they watch this episode, that was a triggering moment for them, because it's one thing when you have a person that has Alzheimer's, but when you have to be the family member or the friend that has to deal with the person who has it, that takes a toll as well.
it does. It takes a big, especially on the family members, especially on the kids or whatever the kid. It takes a big toll on everybody, especially on like the kids or the grandkids or whatever the case is, because this is like essentially your role model growing up.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know, so
And the
to
thing
see
is,
them,
and I know we felt bad because he thought he was doing the right thing. He thought giving the compound V to his dad was going to save him, but it didn't really do anything. And the thing is, I think him being in it wouldn't have done anything because his mind was still messed up. The compound V didn't mess his mind up. His mind was already like that because he was in that coma. So that wouldn't have changed anything. If he was already in his right state of mind, then it would have been, he just would have had powers. But I believe he was already, his mind was all on its way out the door anyway, and the compound V wasn't going to change that.
yeah, because I think they say he was like brain dead or something like that, right?
Pretty much.
So yeah, the compound V doesn't fix it's not going to repair that to its previous state.
Yeah.
So that was sad, but that was a part of a thing where he kind of even bonded with his mother over that.
Yeah, that actually kind of brought him and his mother closer together.
Yeah.
Because at first I was looking at her, I said, keep an eye on her because she might be real shady. But then when it all pulled itself together in the end, it turned out she wasn't that bad at all.
Yeah. Still messed up what she did, but
Yeah.
she kind of did give an explanation. Not saying it's justified, but she did give an explanation as to what happened.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this same episode, Butcher lets the boys know about, and this is why we said you guys got to see Gen V, because this is where Gen V plays a part of this. Butcher lets the guys know about what's that thing called, the virus, whatever
Yeah.
what the virus is called.
Mm-hmm.
Butcher lets him know about the virus, and they're saying that the virus is, now this is why I'm saying I don't know how much stronger Homelander is than everybody else, because they're saying they don't think the virus can kill Homelander, but it could kill Newman.
Mm-hmm.
So they got to go find it, but they don't know where to go, and it was cooked up, and you would know about the virus from Gen V because that's the plot in Gen V.
Yeah.
So
that's where Victoria went to go see that guy when they was in that garage, and that's what she was getting from him. And then of course she ended up popping his head because she couldn't afford to let him live, and then she walks out because we never knew what was in there. They kind of left it as a mystery, but then when this episode we find out that's what it was.
Yeah. And see, the thing is that you wouldn't know that if you didn't see Gen V. You'd just be really confused about what Butcher's talking about because this wasn't in season 3. Yeah. So you just have this big gap of information, and it does play a part in this season. Mm-hmm. So in order for them to get it, they don't know where to get it from, but in order for them to get it, they got to go back to Stan. Mm-hmm. And Stan is in prison. So they try to make some arrangement with Stan to get out of prison. At first, Stan was all like, I ain't trying to go, until he finds out that Victoria is giving her daughter, which is essentially to Stan, his granddaughter, because he raised Victoria.
Yeah, so he raised her as his own.
Yeah, yeah. So he's pretty much her adopted father. So when he finds out that Victoria's giving her daughter compound V, then he decides to join the team because like, okay, Victoria needs to be stopped.
I thought what was so funny about that when they got him out and they was taking him to the car. He first of all, let's just say Stan is going to be dressed nice. Okay, yeah, he not going to be going nowhere looking bummy. Even fresh out of prison, he basically practically had on the same suit that he went to prison in. And when he got to the car, I thought this was so funny. When he looked on the seat, he said, "Can we put some towels down?" I thought that was so funny because I said that's such a Stan like thing of him to say.
Yeah. I don't know. Stan is a cool character to me.
Yeah, yeah, I like him. Like he's a cool character. And shout out to Giancarlo Esposito who plays him. Amazing actor, the perfect person to play this role, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
yeah, I like him. I mean, side note, everything he plays in, I know. He's gonna be the main villain in the new Captain America
Captain
movie,
America,
Captain
yeah,
America: The Brave
hmm
World. I can't wait to see. I don't even know
yeah,
what character he's playing, but
yeah. He's playing this character named George Washington Bridge.
okay,
That's literally the name of the character. When I first saw it, I was like George Washington Bridge, like in New York, and it was like, no, that's the name of the character. Is George Washington Bridge. He's basically like an anti hero version of Nick Fury.
okay,
Yeah. When I was looking up his character, he doesn't have like any special super abilities or anything like that, which is sort of like Nick Fury, but he's sort of like Nick Fury, but on the opposite end of the spectrum of Nick Fury.
okay. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Yeah.
So they break him out of. They get him out of. They didn't break him out. They made an arrangement to get him out of prison. So he goes to his old barn where he knows Victoria's probably cooking up the virus. So immediately, pretty much, Victoria finds out that he was out of prison, and then finds out exactly where he was. So she meets him at this barn,
and we know how they found out, and we know how she found out. We knew how we knew she was there because their nose started to bleed.
Yeah. So essentially, that's her warning that she could pop everybody's head, but she doesn't. And what's interesting is everybody's nose starts to bleed except Stan's.
Yeah, so that shows she has control of her powers.
Yeah. So she wasn't gonna pop his, but she was threatening to pop everybody else's. But the thing is that to her, Huey still has a bunch of evidence on her. That's why she's not doing that, because she knows if she kills them, then the evidence of her is going to get leaked out, and that's going to ruin her reputation and her plans. So she doesn't do that, but she's threatening to do that. So her and Stan exchange some words or whatever, and they're looking around. There's nobody in the lab. There's no animals in the lab. So they're looking around, and they go into this barn where they see a man with his chest completely, like, I think he was like split in half or something, with a chicken egg.
Yeah.
He had a whole nest in his open body, in his open dead body. And the chicken, and people was kind of confused. I was confused too. I was like, what the hell? And then we saw another security guard, and the chicken ran through the security guard.
Yeah, he ran, like literally flew right through him. So these animals ended up getting compound V in their system, and they basically turned into wild beasts. And it's crazy because they were trying to shoot the chicken, and all that was coming off the chicken was the feathers, like literally. And one of them almost flew in the stand, but Victoria caught it and blew it up when she looked at it. So basically, she's the only one there that could kill those animals just by, making them explode.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they started going crazy. Then they had to run out of the barn. That whole episode with them animals, them farm animals, was crazy because they had to run out of the barn to get away from them. And then they thought they got away. And then remember, as they was walking, Butcher had saw a bunny, like a rabbit, like laid there on the side, and it had like the little tentacles floating outside of it. And I was like, that was a foreshadowing right there, but we just didn't know it, of what was to come with his character. And then they just kind of walk off, and then they just kind of have a casual like they keep talking and having a casual conversation and everything like that. But what was so funny was when Starlight and Victoria were talking, and Victoria said something to trigger her, and Starlight punched the shit out of her.
Yeah.
But she didn't do nothing back to it. I was like, oh, please don't pop this girl's head. But she didn't do it. But because I always worry that if something just gets on her, like rubs her the wrong way, that she's going to do it. So that was my initial thought, that she was going to do it, but she didn't do it. And then all of a sudden they keep on walking and walking. And then you see this big bull, is it like a moose or something like that? It was a bull or something like that. And I'm looking like, he got this look in his eye, y'all better run. And all of a sudden you see these sheep just start flying out of nowhere. I'm literally like, they tearing this bull apart, and they run it and take a flight. And then you had the one security tried to jump over the fence. She didn't even make it 1 foot onto the ground, and they snatched her up and ripped her apart. That
Yeah,
whole part with the flying sheep was crazy.
it was. They flying and eating the bull and everything. Um, mind you, too. Starlight's having like a little crisis too because her powers aren't really working like that.
Yeah, they're kind of glitching. Every time she tries to use them, it's like this short circuit.
So yeah, they run into the barn, and that's when they find the guy, the main scientist.
Yeah.
The main
Who
now this
Victoria
main
who Victoria happens to know. I think like isn't he like her husband or
yeah
no
that
or he's the father. We know that he's the father of their daughter.
yeah he is, and he was Stan's main like main laboratory guy.
Yeah.
He was Stan's main scientist until Stan and or the scientist forgot his name got into a relationship with Victoria and they had a baby
Hmm.
or whatever. So that's where their daughter comes from. Now Victoria still loves this man,
Yeah,
so
you can tell.
they
You can
probably
you
still
can you
in a
can tell.
relationship.
Yeah, you can tell by the way that she like ran to him and they embraced each other because she was like literally getting very emotional because she was
Yeah,
even asking about him too, like where was he at and whatnot. So yeah, he's like the main scientist, and then they're all in there, and then all of a sudden a door opens up, and what comes from behind that door? A black sheep. Was it a black sheep? Was that or a goat or something like that? I don't know what it was. I said I don't know what it is, but y'all need to get up out of there or do like or something like that. And
yeah,
then what they do, I think what ends up happening is they ended up, I think they killed the goat or killed it, and then what they did was they injected the virus into the goat and then put the goat outside, because remember those sheep are still flying up and you can tell they've been there for a while because it was daytime when they went to that barn. By the time they got up out of there, it was dark, it was nighttime, so they was in that barn for hours. And
yeah,
then the goat finally snatches up the goat, the sheep, one of the sheep snatches up the goat and they start eating it and picking it apart. And then all of a sudden they went back outside and it comes down like it's about to attack them, and they just stop and it fall to the ground. And then that's when they find out that the virus does work.
yeah. And another thing too is that they were debating on what to do with the virus because he said that that was his last sample of the virus.
Mm-hmm.
So they was all like, "Man, should we like save it and try to use it on Homelander or whatever?" But they decided there's no way they can get past those sheep unless they use this virus. That
Yeah.
was the only way for them to get past the sheep.
Mm-hmm. And then once they actually do that, they actually leave and they come collect Stan to make it seem like he's going back to prison. And then Victoria's asking about the doctor, and they said, well, we don't know where he's at, but we found this, and it was his leg. His leg was in a bag. So they're assuming that the sheep probably got him. So she's assuming that he's dead. And then when they're getting ready to take Stan back to prison, all of a sudden the driver's head pop. I was like, oh God, I know what's about to happen. She's about to free him, and that's basically what she does. And that's ironically the only time we see Stan this entire season. So
Yeah,
we
that's
don't know where he's at after this episode. So it's just up in the air, and I'm sure he's probably going to pop up in season 5.
yeah,
And then it turns out that the doctor is not dead. Butcher has kidnapped him and basically is holding him hostage. And Butcher was the one that cut off his leg and put it in a bag or put it off somewhere to make it seem like he was dead, throw the scent off, so he can use him to make more of that virus.
yep. And he was with Negan.
Yep, and he was with Negan.
So that is that episode. So he's essentially trying to, and he does this behind the team's back because the whole team thinks that the scientist is dead too.
Yeah.
Now that leads to the the next episode, and I think the next episode is one of the that's one of the craziest episodes in my opinion.
Oh, you talking about Tech Night?
Yeah.
Oh, now if y'all see his character, y'all definitely had to watch Gen V because that's where his character got introduced.
Yeah. So
that guy is the definition of a freak.
Yeah, man. So okay, Tech Knight's powers is Tech Knight essentially is a detective, and he's if you know the character, the Marvel character Daredevil, and you know how Daredevil's blind, and that heightens his other senses like to 100. So his
Yeah.
sense of hearing is like on 100 in comparison to a regular person. His sense of smell and taste and touch and everything. That's like Tech Knight, but Tech Knight also has that with a sense of sight too.
Yeah.
So he's able to hear if somebody's heartbeat is beating really fast, or if somebody's sweating, or something like that. He has those powers when it comes to his senses.
Yeah, he has very heightened senses, so he can determine, like, if your heart is beating too fast, he can tell that you're nervous, or if you're like sweating, he can tell if you're scared or anything like that. Like, or he can even notice the slightest twitch in your body, like you're trembling. If even if you don't notice it, he'll notice it. That's why it's kind of hard to get stuff by him. But my goodness, every time Tech Knight came up and they kept mentioning the word "hole," I always bust out laughing because it's like, again, if you watch Gen V, you understand why that's so funny.
Yeah. Now, all of the 7 are supposed to be there. The 7 is supposed to be there. Another thing too, and I think this has happened too. Sage and the Deep are having like a little relationship thing going on.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the lobotomy. Remember the lobotomy
Yeah,
that
I
he
forgot
that
about
she
that too
gave
till just now.
that she so basically, because Sage is such, she's so smart and everything like that, there might be a time when she wants to turn her brain off, so she will give herself a lobotomy, which is basically sticking this like this pin type of this rod into her eye that kind of taps her brain to kind of like shut it off, so for a couple of hours. Well, she actually had the Deep do that just so she could have sex with him, because she was like, I'm not turning my brain on to have sex with this guy. Y'all know the Deep, y'all know this guy, he has a relationship with a whole octopus, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. But that's the only way that she could actually have some kind of relationship with him is if she lobotomizes herself, which they actually show, and that part was so
Oh,
hard to watch. I mean, between having to put that in the corner of her eye, you could hear the squishing and crunching sound. I was like, oh my
yeah,
god.
that was really disturbing. I was like, and they took their time with that scene. It wasn't like a quick little thing. I mean, it inched its way in there slowly. I was like, oh
And then
my
she said, now, and she said, now take the hammer and tap.
oh, oh God, that was disturbing. And this lets you know that her brain has the ability to heal from all of that.
Yeah.
And this plays important into this episode. So this is where they're meeting up with all of like a bunch of CEO billionaires and big donors and stuff like that, people in government or whatever, where Homelander is about to launch his plan and Newman is right there with him. So they get the scoop on that about the plan, and they get the scoop, and they go to this one superpower dude named, what's his name,
Web Weaver.
Webweaver. So Webweaver, they and how they got his costume, Lord.
Yeah.
Webweaver is a crazy junkie. So MM had to drug Webweaver and take his costume and have Huey wear his costume.
Yeah.
So Huey was invited or whatever to the party. So they're trying to go in, and Huey's there planting little bugs and stuff like that in the party. So he's doing that, and then Tech Knight invites Huey down to the basement. Now, before we find out exactly why he's in the basement, then that's when Homelander explains his plan to everybody. Or he's starting to explain his plan. Now, the reason why, and this all happening at the same time, the reason why Tech Knight invited Webweaver in the first place is because Tech Knight is on some crazy bondage 50 Shades of Grey thing, and he invited Webweaver because Webweaver is, I guess, known for being a freak or something.
Yeah.
And to no surprise, they're walking right around the corner. You see Ashley.
Yeah. And don't forget about the other guy that's like strung up in there as well.
Yeah, he had another dude. His old sidekick is in this rubber suit with a gag
Like
in his mouth,
yeah,
tied up.
he has like a red leather suit on with a ball gag in his mouth, and he's chained up to a wall.
Yeah,
And yeah,
I'm talking
Ashley
about.
and Ashley's another freak comes in there. And mind you, at this point, Huey is like chained, almost like in the I don't want to say what position, but if y'all saw the episode, he's chained up in a very compromising position. No, we got to talk about the cake. He said, "I
Yeah.
want
Oh
you to
my
sit."
God, Lord.
He said, "I want you to sit on the cake and fart." And it's like the sound was crazy when when he did. He had Huey sit on this German chocolate cake and fart into it. Mind you,
Bare
he has
ass
a
too.
right. And the butler. He has a butler. The butler's a black guy, and he basically has uh him strung up while he's kind of like choking himself while Huey is doing that. Like this guy's kink level is like over 9,000. And then Ashley comes in off the elevator, and this is when Huey's like kind of chained up, and like she has this like long red dress on or whatever, and then she takes it off and she has this tight leather skirt on, and she's playing with the feathers, playing with his feet, and smacking Huey on his butt and all types of thing, and like caressing him and whatnot. And he said, and Tech Knight had told Huey, if he said, oh, if you want her to stop, all you got to do is say the safe word. And I'm saying, oh damn, they never got. We didn't know there was a safe word. We never found out there was a safe word. And it's funny because they think because Web Weaver, his ability is to shoot out webs through his butt. He starts naming up all these like spider references and whatnot, and none of them are the safe word.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. And like after, I thought what was so funny too was when Ashley had said, I laughed so hard when she said this. She said, it's getting real swampy down there. When she said that, I was done. I was laughing so hard. I was laughing so hard. But what was so crazy is when she was done, she wiped her swamp across Huey's face, and I'm like, why is it so thick and slimy and gel like that when she did it? And then she ended up leaving and going back upstairs. I don't know, she probably left the house because we didn't see her after that. And Tech Knight is still trying to get Huey to like he at this point he doesn't know it's Huey. He think it's Web Weaver. He said I'll let you go if you tell me the safe word, and he still doesn't tell him. And then he takes the mask off, and then it's revealed that it's Huey. And then it's like, oh damn, they need to get down there fast because who knows what he's about to do. And he says, and then that's when Tech Knight pulls this. He has this metal table that has all these dissecting tools on it, like you would see like in a hospital. And he says that I'm going to put some holes in your body and I'm going to screw each one of them. I'm like, oh, y'all need to hurry up and get down there now, because Huey is like this is one of the things where Huey usually can get out of something, but if they didn't get down there fast enough, he wasn't going to be able to get out of there. So then it's a part where Kimiko, MM, and Starlight. Kimiko climbs up and gets inside of the house to let them in from another vantage point, and then you see Starlight going down the hallway, and that's when Firecracker comes out of the bathroom, and I'm like, oh damn. Then they kind of have their little exchange of words, and then Starlight pulls the one up on her and stabs her in the neck with this trank, like this needle that I guess is going to knock her out, and she knocks her out so she can get away. And then MM and Kimiko get to the library where the elevator is, and then they run into Sage, and I'm like, oh man. So Kimiko is trying to go through the books to try to see if she can find if there's a secret passageway in order to get into the elevator, because usually those houses are. And then you have Sage and MM have an exchange of words, and she's getting inside his head. Like she knows some stuff about him that I'm surprised she even knew, like about his daughter and her behavior and all kinds of stuff like that. And he was like, I'm warning you, I'll pull this trigger. And she basically saying you're not going to do it. But then when she starts to run, he pulls it and pops her right in the head. And the thing is, I think a lot of people were shocked that he actually did it, that he actually really pulled the trigger. And then all of a sudden, he basically has a panic attack and he basically passes out right there. And then Kimiko has to go and get A-Train. And I thought it was funny because she threw like a little tablet in this drink to get his attention. and she gets his attention. He comes upstairs. And mind you, remember she dropped her phone. So usually when she's talking, she texts into her phone to show people the message because everybody doesn't know sign language, and Frenchie wasn't there, so he couldn't translate for her. And then A Train comes up there and sees that MM is knocked out, but Sage is gone. Like she got up and she left. All you see is a spot of blood from when she was bleeding onto the floor, but she's gone. And then I thought this was so creative, using the books, the title of the books, to relay the message to A Train. I thought that was creative.
Yeah, that was because she couldn't talk to him.
Yeah.
And then A Train, that was creative. And then A Train rushed him, even though he was reluctant to do so. A Train rushed MM to the hospital.
Yep. And then this is another part right here that lets you know that A Train's redemption arc is still there. Because when he takes MM to the hospital, he puts him onto the gurney, and then he sees a little boy. And this little boy looks at him. He looks back at the boy smiles, and then he smiles back at the boy, and then he takes off. And that was the moment right there where I think where A Chain realizes he can't be a part of Vault anymore. He said that's, in so many words, that's the moment right there that he's always wanted. And we'll go into a little bit of that later on, because that's going to come up again when he has a conversation with MM, which is in the next episode. So back on this, Starlight is dead.
Did you notice too when Tech Knight was talking to A Train?
Oh yeah, about the slave, about the slave owners. Like, you know, he had told A Train in so many words, we would have caught you and everything like that. So yeah, they threw that in there. Like basically Tech Knight talking about and bragging about his family being slave owners, being plantation owners, and that, you know, it was a possibility that my ancestors could have owned your ancestors. Yeah, so they actually went there with that. I wish they would have gave A Train a more wittier comeback than the one that they did, but they were playing it it's like they kind of played it safe with how he could have came back. But I wish he could have like really said, because that was a window of opportunity right there for him to really come back at Tech Knight for what he said, because that was very disrespectful. But he kind of got it in the end through the butler. But so Starlight is there, and Kimiko and Starlight finally, you know, they get, ironically, the book that was used to open up the door was the Sodom and Gomorrah. when you think about it, when you think about it, when you get downstairs, that's literally what it is. So they get in, they get to the elevator, and now Huey's on this table stretched out, and he has the like a ball gag in his mouth, and then Tech Knight is about to put a hole in the side. And then the door opens up, and Kimiko comes in and does like a jump kick and knocks him out from that one kick. They get Huey off the table, and then they end up stringing up Tech Knight on this thing. And then they're trying to figure out, how do we weaken this guy? So Kimiko stabs him like twice in the leg with a scalpel, but all it does is turn him on, because he felt pleasure in that. And it was like, okay, how do we deal with a narcissist? Then the guy who's strung up in the red pulls the chains down. He grabs the computer and he opens it up, and he says, we need a retinal scan. And they find out that it was access to all of his bank accounts. Like, and Tech Knight is like a multi-billionaire. He's very wealthy. And then they use the retinal scan to open up the accounts. And then all of a sudden they start sending off like 20 million here, 40 million here. But when Starlight said, send $100 million to Black Lives Matter, Tech Knight said, no, not those people, not those people. I laughed so hard. that man was about to have a whole breakdown when she said that. And what's crazy is, even after that happened, Kimiko still sent it anyway. So, you know, it ended up going to them. But then through that, we found out that what the plan was, that they were building these prisons to basically house all of these humans. And it's crazy because that was a foreshadowing of what was to come on the last episode of the season. We just didn't know how they were going to do it. But Tech Knight basically explained that's what they were going to do. So once they do all of that, they get ready to leave. And then all of a sudden you hear Tech Knight screaming in pain. And the butler comes out, and he basically starts strangling him with like this belt or this whip or something he was strangling him with. And then what was so funny is, he yelled out Zendaya, and he was like, what? He said that was the safe word, Zendaya. And I said, you know what? First off, none of us would have guessed that, but I think it's funny considering Zendaya was in the Spider-Man movies, and she's dating Tom Holland, who plays Spider-Man, and he was in a costume for a person named Web Weaver. So I said, so there was the connection there with Spider, but it was like through her. I wonder if she saw this episode.
Yeah, that would have been very
someone,
interesting.
I wonder if someone told her about this episode. So that's that whole part right there. But then now you get back to the actual party itself. Sage is back downstairs, and now she doesn't know where she's at because she still got that bullet hole in her head, and Homeland about to freak out. He was like, Sage, where were you? And then she said something about when I was younger one time, I had ate a whole bunch of candy corn or something like that. And Homelander was like, oh no. And then that's when he figures out Sage has a weakness in that moment right there. And that was bad for him because remember, Sage is the one who's basically his mouthpiece. Because Homelander doesn't know what's going on. And Stan even alluded to that in the end of the last season. He said, you can have the company and all of this, but you don't really know what you're doing. Technically, you just are the face of the Seven. Like, that's all you're there for. You don't know how to run a business at all. And that showed right there. He's lucky Victoria was there because she was able to pick up the slack. But at the end of the day, remember what we were saying about his ego. He doesn't like being upstage. And he felt like that because he couldn't explain what was supposed to be explained to these people that he's trying to be good with. And I thought it was funny because remember, Sage and Victoria had a whole conversation prior to that. And Sage, Victoria looked back at her and kind of gave her that wink and a nod while Sage was eating that chocolate cake. And she was looking at her like, yeah, I thought that was funny because Victoria's thinking it's one thing, but Sage is out of her mind. And she's like, okay, I'm just going along with you. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'll go along with you with the head nod.
And this also pisses Homelander off.
Yeah, because it hurt his ego.
Yeah, Victoria kind of won up Homelander because he was trying to explain the plan, and everybody was disagreeing. They was all like, "Man, well, did you think of this? Did you think of this? Did you think of this?" And he didn't. He doesn't know what to say. He can't answer it. And then Victoria comes up there, and then she kind of just starts, stroking their ego and getting them on board. Otherwise they wouldn't have been on board.
Yeah.
And that pisses him off. Mm-hmm. So another part about it too, because this leads into the next episode. There is a I don't know how they get looking for this person, but there's a shapeshifter that has the power. If she touches you, she can steal your identity and your memory. They find her in this like abandoned house or something like that, some closet or something, and she touches.
Don't forget about the January 6th plans.
You said what?
The January 6th plans.
Yeah, okay, the January 6th plans. Because they discovered those, so they were looking for them. They found them, but they found a girl there too. The girl touched an old lady, and they lost her. Later on,
and I thought it was dope how they did the powers. She's ripping her skin off, like ripping the flesh off to reveal the new identity underneath.
Yeah, that's creative because normally shapeshifters you just like Mystique and you just transform or whatever.
Yeah,
that was very creative. It was very interesting.
For this show, it is. For this show, definitely it works for this show.
Yeah, it does. It wouldn't work for the X-Men. I hope the X-Men don't try to do that.
Right? Yeah, I don't think they're gonna go that route.
What's interesting is that we didn't know that at first. So as she's running out the stairwell, we just see a trail of blood and like body parts just on the we don't know what's going on. And then we see the camera points to her like peeling her face off and showing another face underneath that.
Yeah.
So then when she gets outside, people can't tell who she is.
Yeah, she already blended in with the crowd.
So at this point, MM is talking to his ex-wife, and I guess they're rekindling their relationship. And he's telling her like, "Hey, I want you and my daughter. I want y'all to go out of country." I forget exactly where it was.
Belize.
Okay. Belize. He says he wants to go there, and he's going to handle something because it might be a life or death situation. She tries to convince him to come with her. At first, he's reluctant, doesn't really want to do it. Or whatever, he's debating it because he just had a panic attack. He can't really even do this. That's why he gave the leadership back to Butcher, because he's passing out. He has a panic. He can't handle it. So they're at this bar, and this old lady touches this old lady touches Starlight or
Mm-hmm.
whatever the case is. And at first we did not think it was a fan. It was a fan that came in. Oh, can I take a picture? And she took a picture to touch Starlight. And at first we're not seeing anything or noticing anything
Mm-hmm.
until later on she comes back with Huey. She puts on the Starlight costume again. Her and Huey, they have sex. Whatever. Everything's
Had
cool.
him snoring with his mouth wide open.
Yeah, she knocked him out. Um, then she comes up and she grabs the codes, the January
Mm-hmm.
6th code. She grabs the codes, and we're wondering, like, okay, what's going on? And then we reveal that it's actually the clone who cloned Starlight and kidnapped Starlight, and Starlight is in some type of abandoned building chained
Yeah,
to the ground.
yeah.
And
But
that's how
also,
that ends.
we forgot a whole major part. Well, first off, the Deep killed the octopus.
Yeah. Oh,
Like
that okay. That happened in that
they
episode, not the next
yeah,
one.
yeah,
Okay, you're right.
they had a whole like thing going on, and he got upset and he went into the tank and smashed the tank, and the octopus ended up basically suffocating. I thought it was so funny because it took so long to die. Like it was like I thought that was so funny. But then that's when the Deep started to go literally off the deep end. At that point, he was ready for whatever. Because remember also, Butcher and Starlight had went back to their headquarters, and who was there? The Deep. The Deep was there, and then they have like an exchange of words. He's basically calling Starlight a B. He said F me too and all this, that, and the third. And then all of a sudden, who comes from behind? Butcher is Black Noir. Like he comes from behind him, and then all of a sudden they get into a huge fight. Like it was Butcher versus Noir and Starlight versus the Deep, and they're like literally going at it. And this is still when Starlight is like her powers still glitching, so she can't really use. So all she has is that physical strength to like kind of hit him and everything like that. And then all of a sudden, when the Deep seemingly looks like he's about to step on Starlight and crush her head, in comes A Train. A Train comes in and knocks Deep all the way to the side, and he says, "Wait a minute, so you're the leak? Like you're the one?" No. Black Noir says, "You're the leak," and then Starlight says, "You can talk," because Black Noir never spoke, so they never heard him talk.
And they don't know that's not the original Black Noir either.
Exactly. And then and then A Train and the Deep start fighting. Then all of a sudden, remember in one of the episodes prior, Black Noir told the Deep that he could fly, and that's when he just flew. He just started to float and fly right there. And then MM came in with that Gatling gun that Butcher was trying to get, but he couldn't get. And he started firing off and started popping off at Black Noir, but it's like nothing was really affecting him like that for the most part. And then he just kind of flew out the window. Then Starlight comes from in front and grabs the Deep by his gills, which is his weak spot, and she's digging into, like, you can hear the squishy sound going into his gills, and then she knocks him back a couple of times, and then she picks up that 45-pound plate and slams it on his head.
Oh, that was so satisfied with that scene. I was cheering that scene on.
It was, and the thing is, she deserved that, because if y'all remember what he made her do in the very first episode of The Boys, she deserved that one. She deserved to get her get back with that one.
Yeah. And they was beating the Deep's ass.
Yeah, they were. And I thought he was, and I'm gonna be honest with you, I thought he was dead, but I was like, that would have been too easy. Like, if he goes out, and hopefully he does next season, because I think season 5 is the last season, I want his death to be brutal. But then after that happens, they're back at Vought, and no. They go to A Train goes to Vought, and he talks to Ashley, and he says, "I have to get out of here because they now know I'm the leak." And I'm sitting here saying to myself, please don't let Homelander be on the other side of that door. I was
nervous.
I was literally saying that, let him be on the other side of that door. And then he's trying to tell Ashley that she needs to leave too, but Ashley keeps saying that she can't leave. But before A Train ends up turning around to leave, Ashley stops him. And this is probably one of the best things that Ashley could have did on this entire season. And she said, A Train, before you leave, make sure to cut out your chip, because all of them have a chip inside of them that's like a tracking device. So she told him to take out the chip, and when he opened the door, I'm saying to myself, please don't let Homelander be on the other side of that door. And when he wasn't on the other side, I was like, whew, sigh of relief. So he's gone. And then it cuts back into with Homelander, and he's sitting there crying. And he said, because A-Train's gone. And then Firecracker says, well, he cut out his chip, and apparently he left and sold his family. So he went and got his brother and his nephews, and now they're gone. And ironically, that's the last time you hear of A-Train the rest of the season, like, because I think there's only one episode left after this.
Yeah,
so he's gone. So he's gone. So and I said that's good. So that means he made it. So that means we'll be seeing him next season, because everyone thought for sure he was going to die.
Yeah. Normally after a redemption arc,
that's typically what happens. But I'm glad they didn't. They didn't do the cliche thing. So I'm glad they didn't do that. Then enters.
Also, let me just say, the whole time, Firecracker keeps calling both, especially Sage and A-Train uppity. She has this like racist uppity, like, yeah, some people are just naturally uppity, and you know that's a anti-black slur that they use for black people.
Yeah, she said born uppity. Remember, she said that some of them are born uppity. So yeah, we know what that was. And the thing is, I would typically look at people's reaction videos to these episodes, and when it got to that part, everybody who I was watching who did a reaction when that part came up, every last person knew exactly what she was talking about. Even the non-black reactors knew what they meant. So when a lot of people say they don't know what white supremacy looks and sounds like, they know. Trust and believe me when I tell you they know. Don't let them sit up there and say that they don't know. They know exactly what it looks and sounds like. But so when that happens, Sage comes in and she basically tells them about what happened. Now Homelander is pissed at her because he feels like he was made a fool of at that meeting, because now he knows her weakness. He's like, I can't really depend on you because if something does happen like that again and I need you, what can you do for me? And all this type of stuff. And then she ends up saying stuff that, she basically kind of gives him the same speech that Stan gave him at the end of season 3. Like, they paralleled so much. And I'm still trying to figure out what was in that book, because remember, she had a book that had Maeve on it. And I'm trying to figure out what's in that book, because even with the last episode of the season, we see it again, but we still don't know what's in the book. I'm guessing it might be some maybe her plans. That's my only assumption.
Yeah.
Then they have a discussion, they leave. What's that?
At this point too, we have to mention the Tucker Carlson dude.
Yeah.
They killed him because they thought he was leak.
Yes.
And then they killed him too.
Yeah, Ashley set that up.
Yeah, that's when A-Train asked Ashley to protect her, because they're gonna find out I'm the leak. So Ashley set up the Tucker Carlson dude, and he died or whatever. They found out he wasn't the leak. Then Firecracker put Web Weaver in a room, and he gave a false confession, and Homelander killed him.
Yeah.
So essentially,
that part was so crazy.
Yeah.
Because he kept spitting out his webs. I'm like, why his webs sound all liquidy like that? And he was like, this is what happens when I get nervous. And if you remember, the room that they had Web Weaver in is the same room that they had the kids from Gen V in at the end of Gen V. That's the same room. It's also the same room they had Maeve in when they captured her at the end of season 3. Remember, they had her in there for a little bit. That's like a containment room.
I didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, now A-Train is now Homelander is like crying. He was like, "Why could A-Train do this to me?" And he feels betrayed and hurt.
Yeah. So, and I'm glad that A-Train was able to get away.
Yeah, he's definitely coming back in the
for sure. Yeah, and I said the best thing that A-Train can do is like, well, you know what? I can't jump the gun because of what happened in the finale. Oh, also, with the doctor. Remember, Butch still has the doctor, but then in this episode we find out that Negan is not there.
Yeah,
we find out that the whole time that Butcher was talking to Negan, he was literally talking to himself. He's not there. Not saying that his character is not real, but he's not there. He's in his head. Like when we was talking about the angel and the devil, the angel
Mhm.
would be his wife, the devil would be Negan. And so we find that out when he says something, and the look on the doctor's face is like, "Who are you talking to? It's just us here." And that's when I was like, "Oh, he's been talking to himself the whole time."
Yeah, that was a big plot twist because I didn't even see that coming. Because
Me
it's
neither.
like he was debating or whatever the case is, and you knew his wife was made up,
Yeah,
but you
because we knew
didn't
she was
know
dead.
Negan was. And
Yeah,
it wasn't until Negan and his wife were talking or whatever, you saw his wife, and then Negan told his wife to shut up. He was like, "Hey, how can you see her?" You know, he was like, "Oh, I'm not real either." And that's a good way of explaining that too. I think the show did
yeah,
really well with kind of
hmm
building up the suspense with that.
yeah.
And
And
another
then they
thing,
and then they did like the little flashback showing all the times he was talking, quote unquote,
yeah,
talking to him, but he wasn't there.
yeah, really going into the fact that Butcher's losing his mind. He is losing his
Yeah,
mind. And another
definitely.
thing that's important too is that the scientist said he can't make a virus strong enough to kill Homelander because if it's that powerful, it becomes unstable and it can eventually wipe out all soups.
Yeah, it could become airborne.
So that's why he's all like, man, no, because then every soup is gonna die, and he's not gonna.
Including,
He refuses to do it.
yeah, and all that he could think about was Ryan.
Yeah, which also goes into showing, and I think the show does well with this. It also goes into showing exactly how much stronger Homelander is than everybody else.
Yeah,
Because the fact that they're like, okay, this virus, in order for it to be powerful enough to take out one person, it has to be damn near this global pandemic.
hmm
That's how strong it has to be. But he's so then is that's Negan saying, just do it, genocide them all, kill them
hmm
all. And the mom, his ex-wife was like, no, don't do it. So he's battling between both of those things.
exactly.
So that leads us into the next episode. So in the next episode, what was the first thing that I want to say about the next episode? The first thing I want to say, let me see. About the next episode. Okay, so eventually the guy, he winds up, the scientist escapes because he stabs Kimiko
In the leg.
in the leg. It has Frenchie have to amputate Kimiko's leg in order for the virus not to spread all over Kimiko's body and kill her.
And mind you, he has to use a saw to cut
Yeah.
her leg off, and those saws are not made to cut through bone. So he is literally hacking away, cutting her. Like, it's not like they had a chainsaw that would have easily did it. He has to hack away at her leg before it spreads to a part of her body that they will eventually take her out. So they had to cut her leg off and maintain. They kept so that holds the virus there. So now the virus is there. And I thought it was funny because when they came and got her, when they saw her, she had a little baby leg. I don't know. Did you see that? She had like a little
Yeah.
baby leg. So now they can see that they have the virus right there inside of that leg, and now they have to get Frenchie to extract the virus out of the leg, or at least enough of it to create enough to take out their target.
Yeah, because the scientist ran away. He used that as a distraction, and he ran away. So nobody knows where the scientist is now, anyway.
Yeah, he just kind of hopped. Like, I don't know how he did it, how he managed to hop away like that with one leg. He had this little makeshift crutch, and he hopped up on out of there.
Yeah, but he was gone.
Yeah,
He was gone. He was gone. So he's gone. All right. So they're working on that. They're kind of losing their mind. They're working on having a Frenchie talk to they're working on having Frenchie take the virus out. Huey's trying to reach out to Newman, trying to like humanize with her and negotiate with her. And at first it doesn't work. He shows up at her house. she pretty much blows him off. You can clearly tell she didn't know all of the plan, because when he brought up the concentration camps, she didn't know about that part.
Yeah.
So she's really not going with it, and Huey's kind of sensing that. That's why he's trying to really like reach out to her like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't work that time or whatever. So this leads to they're looking for the virus or whatever. Butcher is now essentially on what you would call his deathbed. Another thing too, and I think this is very interesting.
Because he passes out at the bar.
Yeah, he passes out.
Oh, we forgot one thing.
I think I know what you would, because I was about to say, I almost skipped it.
When they was at the bar, and they have this little Christmas program or whatever with these puppets, and they're singing this weird little song. And Ryan is there, and he stops them like dead on right there, and he's basically saying that he's going to go into the camera and he's going to tell the truth and everything like that. And I'm like, is he actually going to say it? And then he stops himself. He catches himself right before he's getting ready to say it, and he stops himself. In a way, it's kind of like refreshing. It's kind of relief, because you don't know what Homelander is going to do, because you know Homelander is watching. And because that's after he gets that voicemail from Homelander, basically saying to just like, just suck it up and just do it and all types of stuff like that. And now he's kind of seeing the differences, because if it was Butcher, his tone would have been a whole lot different. He would have said something completely different than what Homelander says, of course, because they're two opposite ends of this spectrum. And he just gets up there. It's like that was like a moment that he had right there, and Butcher enjoyed that, because he was like, see, that's why I don't want to hurt the kid, because at the end of the day, he does have some kind of rationale and moral to him. He's not completely brainwashed by Homelander. And then that's when he gets up from the bar and he passes out.
Another thing too, and that's interesting, because that's why Butcher doesn't want to go with the genocide. A small note, is not really that big. It doesn't really play into a major factor in the story, but Firecracker is completely obsessed with Homelander.
Oh yeah,
like obsessed to the point where she started taking medicine so she can breastfeed, because she knows that Homelander likes breast milk. And it was weird how they found it out.
Yeah, she zipped down her top and squeezed some milk. Like, it literally went squirting out of her breast into his face. His facial expression was priceless when it had, like, his eyes lit up like a kid on Christmas. And then all of a sudden, he starts breastfeeding him, and she's cradling. Like, that whole part was wild to me. But it took me back to season 1. Because remember, that woman used to do that same thing to him too. The one that he ended up taking out. I said, Firecracker better watch out, because he might do the same thing to you too.
Yeah. And you can see now it's starting to take a physical effect on her.
Yes. Because now she's starting to get sick.
Yep. Now, this goes into the next thing, where essentially they're wrapping up. The election is coming up soon, or they're going to be sworn in soon. So they're really trying to get rid of Newman. That's everybody's thing. They got to get rid of Newman, or whatever. Something happens, and I'm trying to remember I'm trying to say everything in chronological order of the event.
Go ahead.
Homelander's on his deathbed, and he calls for Ryan one more time. You said what?
Butcher's on his deathbed.
Butcher. Oh yeah. No, I'm sorry. Butcher's on his deathbed, and he calls for Ryan one more time, and he's trying to connect with Ryan and negotiate to get Ryan to leave Homelander. Now, what were you about to say?
Also, with that scene, that's when he called in Mallory, to basically bring Ryan to see him at that. I don't even want to say he's in a hospital. I forgot where she said they were at. I think they said it was a place ran by the CIA or something like that. And he comes there and he sees him. Oh, got to mention what happened before that, because he's watching the TV. Victoria,
Mm.
because
Yep.
remember, because Firecracker, she took over for the Tucker Carlson wannabe, and they had a show where Victoria was on there. She was like a guest, and they had Homelander on there as well. And basically, Homelander outed her as a soup, like right there on the air, and he basically forced it out of her because he kind of like shot his laser in her way, and her eyes turned white, like but not enough to the point where she would have did any damage, but enough to be on alert. And then the cameras picked that up, and she basically got exposed, and she was mad as hell, and she said something to him where you can tell he doesn't have it all together. She says, you do realize, and I'm just paraphrasing, that you're going to have to get rid or fire about a good chunk of the vault staff because they all have dirt on you. And he says, are you trying to tell me that I didn't think of that, like I didn't know that? He didn't know that, because if she didn't say anything, it would have been a wrap.
Yeah. He didn't, clearly he's not thinking this stuff through. Homelander's not that smart.
He's not. He's acting on impulse. He's very impulsive.
So he's like really tweaking it. He's tweaking out, he's freaking out. He does that. And now everybody's panicking because now they want to recuse. I think that means to kick her down or do a revote because she had won the election, but that's before people knew she was a soup. So now everybody wants to do a revote. So now people are rushing to protect the president-elect because they're all like, okay, well now the president-elect's life is in danger, so now he's in a bunker.
Yeah.
He's in a bunker. So Huey, Kimiko, I think is Frenchie. I think Frenchie is there too.
I think Frenchie.
Or no, Frenchie's still working on the virus,
he's
right?
He's still working on the virus.
Okay, Frenchie's still working on the virus. But it was all three of them and the clone of Starlight, which people don't know is the clone at that point. Now, the clone of Starlight or whatever, she's kind of giving little signs to Huey that she's not really the real Starlight. But at that point, it's too late because they're already locked in this bunker.
Yeah.
So by the time Huey figures out that this is the clone, he tells MM, and the clone's able to deduce the fact that both of them know. So then the clone starts freaking out, and the clone starts going to attack the president-elect. Now, one thing I will say about the clone had a little interesting little conversation with the real Starlight before she went.
Yeah.
Showing that Huey proposed, or she proposed technically. They both that's weird. That was a weird little scene. They both proposed, and then she was all like, you think you're such this good girl, and you think you're this, and that's why your power's not working, and all of this. So at first I didn't know why her power stopped working.
Yeah.
Because she was like, she flew in the very first episode of this season. Now she can't shoot a blast at all. But I think she's having this like guilt complex thing. And she is like a mental block with her powers.
Right. I can see that.
So she can't break out. So back at the chamber or whatever, now the shapeshifter's trying to catch the president-elect, and Kimiko's trying to fight the president-elect off. At this point, you see that Starlight, and it was a painful. She squaws her fingers through the cuffs.
Yeah.
She squaws her hands through the cuff, like it scraped her skin off and all that stuff. But she was able to escape the cuffs, and she went over there to save them. Now, at this point,
and she fought the clone.
Yeah, with no powers. She was able to beat the clone and strangle the clone to death. At this point, and the clone was just murking everybody. Clone was bulletproof, murking everybody.
Exactly.
So they were able to escape with the president-elect. At this point, Ryan is there talking to Butcher, and what's her name? Grace, I think her name was.
Yeah, Grace. Yeah.
Grace is trying to convince Ryan to stay. Butcher's trying to give Ryan the choice, But Grace is all like, "No, man, at this point, you don't get a choice, man. We really need you to stay." So she starts telling Ryan everything about Homelander. At this
Mm-hmm.
point, Ryan knows that his dad is messed up, but Ryan don't know all of the messed up stuff his dad has done. Nobody's told him that.
Yeah. And
So,
she started laying out everything. Like she even went back to the part with the plane in the first season when they just
yeah,
let the plane crash and let all those people die. And then she said that you basically Homelander violated your mother. Like it wasn't a consensual thing. Like you about, and I think that was the triggering point, was to know that he was born like basically out of rape. I'll put it like that. That's
yeah,
basically that's how he was conceived. And I think it's the thing that Mallory was tired of Butcher holding back from telling Ryan what was going on, and it's like, okay, this is like a life or death thing. He has to know now, but also at the same time, how it came out, it wasn't like a gradual thing. It was like it wasn't like it was like it was being dumped on him all at one time. And for him at his age, that was hard for him to really register that that was happening. So of course, it was going to cause him to like fall back a little bit. And now Ryan is kind of looking at Butcher side eye again. Because remember, Ryan kind of like drifted away from Butcher at the end of the third season, and now they were starting to reconnect. But this now pushed. Now this is another divide right here. And then Ryan was trying to leave, but Mallory was trying to tell him like, you can't go, you can't leave. And then she was about to activate that button, and right as she was about to press it, Ryan pushed her, much like he pushed the actor into that wall. But that was an accident. But he meant it this time. Pushed her into the wall, and she broke her neck, and now Grace is dead.
yeah.
But Ryan looked back at Butcher. Butcher looked at him and was like, he couldn't believe it because he's never seen Ryan kill someone. And he knows that when it came to his wife, he knows that was an accident and he had no control over his powers. He was still very young. But to actually see him have some control of his powers and to see him do that to Grace, especially that's a woman that's literally like their boss, that triggered something in him. And then he looked back and who did he see? Negan right over his shoulder and was like, you was right. Like, he was right. Like, I don't know what else I can do. And that's what triggered now Butcher to go into a place that we are not ready to see. And
Oh yeah.
I don't think anybody's ready to see this side of Butcher. And we've seen many sides of him, but this one right here, oh my God. And we got a glimpse of it too after this scene.
Yeah. And what's interesting too is Ryan, when Ryan pushed her, Ryan didn't really show remorse.
He
Like it
didn't.
wasn't like he got emotional and then he kind of pushed her and oh my God, it's an
Yeah, yeah,
accident. Didn't mean
yeah,
to.
yeah, yeah.
Ryan
He
stood
wasn't
over her
shocked.
body and was like, just calm.
Yeah, like when he did what he did with his mother, that he was crying because he said it was an accident and he was crying naturally because that was his mother. But when he did this to Mallory, he went looked back at Butcher, he gave his kind of look and he walked out. And like you said, it was kind of like a non-remorse type of thing. So now that he sees that, that scene pretty much ends, and then they go back to the new spot that the boys are at. They basically tend to Starlight's wounds because remember when she was pulling herself out of the cuffs, she ended up pulling flesh, like literally fresh off of her skin, off of her hand. And then that's when she has this whole. And I thought this part was kind of dumb for her to kind of come at Huey about the ring and
Yeah,
the
bro. I
proposal.
was just okay. Yeah, I thought that too. Keep going.
I
Keep
was
going.
like, because I'm like he genuinely didn't know, like he thought that it was you, like I thought what was funny though was like, she's like, how many times did y'all have sex? He said about less than 20. She was like, I was only gone for 10 days. So I thought that part was kind of funny, but other than that, I think she was like she was going overboard with that because again, he was dealing with a clone. He didn't know it was a clone. Like it looked just like you. And he didn't realize it was the clone until they was in that bunker and and the clone said something to make it realize. But after that point, it was the damage was already done. So I thought that little back and forth that they were having was kind of dumb. Then you had a moment with Frenchie and Kimiko, and they finally kissed. So now it's like, okay, after all this buildup with them always being together, just I guess you could say as friends, they finally kissed. She led in with the first kiss, and then he came back and leaned in and gave her a kiss back. And it's like, okay, so now we have established that Frenchie and Kimiko are officially a couple with that scene, with that part right there. Then you had Victoria come in with her daughter. They have a conversation, and then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Butcher walks in. but not old sickly looking
Oh,
Butcher. This Butcher is healed. He's clean. He looks like season one Butcher. Like he looks healed. Like he looks better. He looks healthy.
oh, hold on. Before we go, let's let the audience know the reason why Victoria and her daughter came in there is because Victoria called Huey. Because at this
Yeah.
point, Homelander threatened to kidnap
Yeah.
Victoria and Victoria's daughter and do a whole bunch of terrible things and everything. So
Yeah.
she's
Oh
trying
yeah.
to
Yeah.
escape. So
Yeah.
she called Huey to be all like, "Hey, let me be your escape plan. I'm gonna help y'all out, whatever." And Huey agreed. So that's why she's at the base.
Yeah. Oh, yep, right. And yeah, good point about that. And she's all about protecting her daughter. And then all of a sudden, like I said, Butcher walks in. He's clean. He's healthy. He doesn't look sick or anything like that. You don't even see that parasite floating around in his head no more. And then he unveils for the first time. We see what we have not been seeing as far as his ability, and it's like this parasite tentacles came out of his chest and literally wrapped Victoria up. Then her daughter tried to come at Butcher. He used one of the other like tentacles to knock her out. She got like knocked into like a metal rod, and she basically is knocked out. And then he wrapped up Victoria, and he held all the other guys back, like they couldn't do nothing.
Yeah.
Then he took her and he ripped Victoria in two, killing her. So now Victoria is dead.
Yeah, and that was crazy. I didn't expect that at all.
I did not expect that at all. And I'm sitting there like my jaw was dropped. I was like, I could not believe he actually did that. And then like they are all standing there looking shocked. And it was at that point right there where they knew, okay, we got to get out of here. Like we can't stay here. We got to go because now the plan is pretty much effectively ruined. Like there's no
another
coming,
thing.
back from that.
Frenchie finally made the virus.
Yeah, he finally made it.
He put it in a syringe in a sniper gun.
Like a dart. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was going to use it on Butcher. He had the gun pointed right at his chest, but he couldn't bring himself to pull the trigger.
And Butcher took it.
Yeah, and he took it. So there's that, and now now that you realize, okay, now we got to leave. So the next time we see him, they find out that Victoria is dead. They go and get Singer, who was the president-elect. He basically gets brought up an indictment, and now they had to invoke the 25th Amendment and install the person who was underneath him as the president-elect. And then Sage comes and sees Homelander. She brings a balloon, and that's when she basically tells him like this was the plan, because Homelander's sitting there thinking that the plan was failed. She's like, no, this is the plan. And she says, this is for you. They want to start an allegiance with you. So this woman got connections like crazy. So it's amazing like how many people she actually does know. And that's when she ends up giving him the phone. He talks to the guy who ends up becoming the president-elect. And then the worst thing that could possibly happen is he now is close with the president-elect, and they enact martial law. They enact martial law, and now they put in this thing where they can go after people, mainly human beings, who oppose suits. And not only with Homelander, basically the Homelander is can put together his own organization, sort of like his own The Boys type of thing, where they can go out and just go and get anybody and basically lock them up in these camps. Which, remember what Tech Knight was talking about in that episode about what those prisons were for. That's what they were for, but they couldn't do nothing with them at that point because it was so many obstacles in the way for them to do it. But now that there's no obstacle because Victoria is gone, the president-elect, he's out the way, so now they can go ahead and go forward with their plan. So as they're starting to leave, you see them handing out passports. MM is giving out passports. I realized that Kimiko and Frenchie had a different passport. Like this was a different color because they're going to a different, maybe like a different country that has red colored passports. Everyone else's is blue. And as they're leaving and driving, you look down at Starlight's hands, and her hands are glowing again, so she got her powers back. Then all of a sudden, this big giant boat just flops right there in the middle of the road as they're driving, and I'm like, where did that boat come from? And they just like crash into the boat, and then they do like little cut scenes. You see Kimiko get tossed into one of those crates, those metal crates, and then Frenchie goes back to get it, and then all of a sudden, who do you see? That chick from Gen V who could brainwash people, that can manipulate people, whisper something in his ear, and then Frenchie walks back, and then Kimiko's trying to get away, and she's being held back by that guy Sam from Gen V, who has super strength himself. So nothing she can do can stop him. And then something happens. She finally says her first words, which is yelling out "no," and she says it like 5 times. So we finally hear Kimiko speak for the first time, and I'll let you talk about how they got because I had to cover my eyes with that one.
Man, okay.
I had to shield my eyes with that one.
First off, if you guys have seen the other seasons, there's this one soup that has a Lord. this one soup has like a very long tentacle like, and we just got to be honest, he has a tentacle like penis.
Yes.
Like and it moves around like you know how Dr. Octopus can move his arms? Yes. His tentacles as long as it can like stretch into another room, like Mr. Fantastic.
Yeah, to my knowledge, I think they said his name in the comics is Love Sausage.
Oh Lord. I didn't know his name. God.
I think they said that's what his name is in the comics.
Oh God.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to shield when that happened. I was not expecting to see him ever again after that Herogasm episode in season 3.
Me too.
And here he is in the bathroom. So like was literally in the bathroom and I like that they kept up with the thing about him being clean because he's a germaphobe. So he likes to be very, very clean. So he's in there washing his hands, which everyone should be doing after they use the restroom. And then he gets tapped on the shoulder. Then he gets knocked out, and then these agents come in and get him. So they basically started rounding up all the boys and everything, throwing them in these trucks and whatever. And what was amazing is, if y'all remember in season 1, the person who dropped the boat was that person who escaped from that prison in season 1, the bald head, the chick with the shaved head, that she looked like Sinead O'Connor. And she basically like dropped that boat. Because I was wondering where she's been, because we hadn't seen her since season 1.
Yeah,
and then they captured Huey. Huey kind of looks back at Starlight because she looked like she was about to go over there, but the chick with the shaved head was going to stop her. And then all of a sudden, Starlight's hands glow up, her eyes glow up, and she took off. I mean, she flew up out of there. Did you see how fast she took off?
Yeah, she was fast as hell. We've never seen a feat like that.
We never seen her move like that. She took off like Homelander does. Like, she took flight. So initially, Starlight and Butcher are the only ones that got. Well, Butcher went in a whole nother direction. So as far as the ones they were capturing, Starlight is the only one that got away, mainly because she was able to fly up out of there. I don't think if she was able to fly, she wouldn't have gotten out of there. But because she flew up out of there and no one else could fly after her, she got away. So Huey, Frenchie, Kimiko, and MM have all been captured. We don't know where they're taking them. Most likely it's in prisons. And the last thing we see is Butcher is driving off in a car, and he raises up a vial that has Compound V in it. We don't know who it's going to be for, and he's just driving off, and the episode ends, and that's the end of the season until they reveal a cutscene. And in that cutscene, you have the president-elect come into this room. It's almost like a chamber with Soldier. Damn, I just get. I said he comes to this chamber with Homelander, and then they say, "How did you find him, or how long has he been here?" They look down and they see a chamber, and all you see is some bare feet at the end of the chamber. And then when they pan the camera over Homelander's shoulder, it's Soldier Boy. So they've been holding Soldier Boy there, and I knew he wasn't dead. I don't know why some people thought he was dead. I was like, no, he's not dead, because I remember if you remember in the end of the last season, they put him in a chamber, but we just didn't know where they sent him. We just knew that he was put in this chamber, and now he's there. So now they got a lot to contend with. So now, and because I kind of heard some things that he was coming back, so now you got Homelander, Soldier Boy, and Ryan. So you got father, grandfather, father, son, grandson.
And it's very interesting. I wonder how Soldier Boy is going to react, because the thing is that Soldier Boy was kind of like betrayed by Butcher towards the end, because Soldier Boy was going to kill Ryan.
Yeah.
And Butcher didn't let him do that. So it was a kind of like an all free for all fight. at the end. So we
Exactly.
don't know what mentality Soldier Boy is going to have when he gets back up.
Yeah. This is going to be very, and apparently season 5 is supposed to be the last season, so yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting. And 9 times out of 10, Gen V is going to come out before it. Now, one thing I wish I could have seen, or I wish I could have had in a post-credit scene, is seeing where the characters are from Gen V, because we still don't know where they are, except for the 2 that they recruited. But we still don't know where they are at. The last time we saw them, they were held up in that room, but we haven't seen them at all since then. And I was thinking maybe in the post-credit scene that would have been it. I didn't expect Soldier Boy to be the post-credit.
Yeah, me neither. I didn't really expect that either. I'm like, okay, and that's cool. And I figured he was coming back because Sage, if you remember, Sage said something when Homelander fired Sage, because Homelander was mad at a certain point in time, and he fired Sage, and then Sage said, okay, but there's one person that we all know you can't beat. And then she walked out the room, and I'm thinking, like, at this point, this is before Butcher had his powers.
Yeah.
The only people I'm thinking about is it could be Newman, but I doubt it's Newman because Newman is scared of Homelander.
Yeah.
So the only person I could think who has the power to who Homelander can't beat, not only has the power to beat Homelander, somebody Homelander can't beat is Soldier Boy. Right. So I figured that they were going to bring Soldier Boy back. Now, what's interesting about it, though, is that I think that still might be an overstatement to say Homelander can't beat Soldier Boy at this stage. The only thing that I think gives Soldier Boy the advantage is that nuke in his chest that takes away powers.
Yeah, like we saw what he did, because remember he did it to Maeve when they jumped out the window and all she had on was that eye patch and a sling, but she didn't have her powers. I wonder if they're going to bring her back. If they bring her back and she's like, wait a minute, this might be a shot in the dark. This may be a shot in the dark. Okay, so Maeve lost her abilities as far as we know when she jumped out the window and took, to prevent Soldier Boy from basically obliterating everybody in that room, because that's what would have happened. And when she left with her girlfriend, but we don't know where they went. They just kind of went and I guess lived off the grid. Remember in season 3, Butcher and Maeve had they had casual sex throughout the season. Like it was never like them establishing a relationship or nothing like that. They just had sex, and because he was a soup at that point, he could withstand dealing with her. I wonder, and put a pin in this if I'm correct.
I know what you're about to say.
And put a pin in this if I'm correct. I wonder if that compound V that Butcher had in that vial, he's going to give to Maeve. I wonder if he's going to go drive to give her that V. I wonder if that's who he's driving to.
No, in that you mean the vial? I thought that was that's the virus.
No, I don't think. Wait a minute. I think that was. I think that might have been V in that. I need to go look again. Because I think it looked blue.
Because he took the virus is blue though. Because he took the virus away from Frenchie.
I'm gonna look it up right now because I'm very curious.
I would expect, to be honest, Maeve to make another. So right now, this is the whole time we've been on this for almost 3 hours. The whole time we just did a recap of that season. But now I think it's a good time for us to make our predictions for the next season. I predict, of course, we know A-Train is coming back, and A-Train's gonna team up with the boys at this point. He has no other choice at this point. I wouldn't be surprised if Maeve comes back in some way, but Maeve doesn't have powers unless they give it to. Oh, something else important too. So when they were making I can't believe I forgot this. When they were making a list, Homelander said, "Hey, I need a list of everybody who has any bit of dirt on us," and Ashley gave him the list. And then Homelander told everybody, like, "Okay, you got to kill everybody on this list." And then the Deep was all like, well, shouldn't Ashley be at the top of the list? And
Ash-
Ashley heard that.
Ashley made a beeline. When she was running around that corner, she literally put a Tokyo drift around that corner in the hills, and then that's when she went into the office and injected herself with the V. But
Yeah.
we don't know what her powers are because after she took it, that's the last time we saw her.
Yeah,
It's
that's
sort of
like
like what happened. It's sort of like how it was with Newman's daughter when she took it. We didn't know what her abilities were until this season. So we'll see what happens with Ashley this season. She says, "Look, if I have a fighting chance of survival, let this be the one. Let this be it." And also R.I.P. to the other Ashley because she became a stray. You know, Noir ended up killing her, and it was like, and Deep was like, "No, not that Ashley." So you know that Ashley, she ended up catching a stray.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Yeah. You know, when Ashley left too, and I was all like, see, you should have left with A Train when you had the chance.
Exactly.
That's the whole thing I was thinking. You should have left with A Train when you had the chance. Now you on the hit list. Now you at the top of the hit list. Oh, like, see, Ashley, okay, that's what. But when Ashley was running, I'm like, Ash, you better, because she was kind of hesitant a little bit. I'm like, Ash, you better get out of there. You better get out of there. And when she took the thing with the V, I'm like, you better take that V because there's no way you can run away from them. You can't outrun them.
Exactly. So I'm curious now, like, what is her powers going to be?
Yeah,
I'm real curious.
It's interesting. I like the way this season ended because this season puts a really big suspense for the next season because you don't know where Huey is, where Frenchie is, or MM. Butcher is off doing his own solo mission. You don't know where Starlight is. Assume Kimiko is with them too.
Yeah.
So it's not like they just get. So they're all kidnapped somewhere. But my biggest thing is like, oh, and Ryan too. So Ryan is going against Butcher. Now the thing is with Butcher is that the only way he could really embrace his powers is if he kind of almost like gave in to like the dark side.
Yeah.
Which was Negan. And he was not doing that. He was not going to do that until Ryan killed Grace.
Oh, I had to go back and look again. That is Compound V in that syringe. It's blue. I looked at. I knew I wasn't tripping. So I think he's going to go and give her. I think that's who he's going to go see. He's probably going to go see May so she can give her powers back.
Isn't the virus isn't blue?
No, the virus is white. It's a white color.
Okay.
Yeah, and I'm looking at. I'm like, it's blue. I literally just like while you was talking, I went and pulled it up on my phone because I have the app on my phone, and I looked at it, and it's blue.
Okay. All right then. I thought the virus was
Yep, because the virus is like a white color. It's a white, like chalky looking color. And I looked at it, I was like, because I'm sitting here saying, like, who would he give that to? And I said, he's probably going to go see May. Please put a pin in that, because if I'm right, we're going to revisit this. You can be like, see, Torian was right.
Okay, well, all right. I give you that, brother. I give you. All right, so and that's going to be a very interesting team up because at this point with martial law, Homelander has the power to summon anybody with any superpower. You know, and you got some dangerous folks out there who have some pretty dangerous powers out there. Everybody on his team is pretty powerful with the exception of Firecracker because it looked like she about to die.
Yeah, because of the side effects from that that medication. It was so funny too because when she was coughing and everything like that, he was like, move down. He's like, keep moving. And if you notice, I like how they shot that because when she was closer, she was more in the light, but the further down she moved, she was in the dark.
Yeah.
So it's like I see what they did there.
Yeah. Because Homelander doesn't respect her at all.
Oh, nah.
So that's going to be interesting. My biggest thing is like, I wonder how. I'm sure Stan is going to make another appearance.
Oh, definitely.
My biggest thing is I'm wondering how Soldier Boy is going to react when he wakes up.
Oh yeah, that's going to be very interesting because he already had animosity towards Homelander anyway. Remember them words he said to him right before they got into it? He basically saying you're a punk and all types of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to send you a screenshot of the thing, but for some reason it didn't come through or it didn't go through. Yeah, but yeah, he was basically telling him, "You're a punk. You're weak, and like there's no way I would ever have a son as weak as you, and everything like that." I was like, "Oh snap!" That's why I like the Soldier Boy character because he was very blunt with it.
He was. The Soldier Boy character is very interesting. He's definitely a fan favorite. He was only in one season.
He remember he knocked Ryan back with his shield. Like he hit him across the head and practically knocked him out briefly. Like he had Ryan seeing stars.
Yeah. I will say the fight scenes in the next season is going to be crazy.
Oh yeah.
The fight scenes in the next season is definitely going to be crazy. I'm ready to see the matchups. I'm ready to see because we know essentially the way Butcher was able to kill Newman so easily and how everybody's pretty much scared of Newman.
Mm-hmm.
Butcher is probably at this point, from what we know, at least in the top 3 strongest soups.
Oh, definitely.
I would put him, Soldier Boy, and Butcher in the top 3 strongest soups, with Ryan being a close number 4. But Ryan isn't as strong as Homelander yet.
Well, we really haven't seen Ryan do too much yet.
Yeah,
like he hasn't really fought a soup yet.
No, he hasn't. His power has not been tested.
Right.
And that's
going to be interesting because it's going to be interesting because Ryan is technically the first natural born soup. Like he wasn't created.
Yeah. So that's going to be an interesting matchup, especially if they do like the 3 for all. I'm wondering like who I think A-Train and the Deep are probably going to have another rematch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I would expect Starlight to have a rematch with Firecracker. Although it's not going to be much of a rematch because Firecracker, like I said, don't really got powers like that.
Yeah, we haven't really seen her use her powers.
And at the end of this season, Starlight seems to be more powerful than she's ever been.
Oh, definitely.
Because she levitated she absorbed a lot of energy and levitated in the end of season 3. And she was able to kind of fly a little wobbly at the end of this season, but she was able to like take up and soar like Homelander. We've only seen 2 characters do that, and that was Homelander and Stormfront.
Mm-hmm.
Besides Homelanders, the only characters we've seen fly, let me think: Homelander, Stormfront, Black Noir,
and Starlight.
Ryan
and Starlight.
Yeah, and Starlight. You know what'd be really interesting though? And I'm just gonna put this. I don't know if they're gonna do it. If they gave Maeve the Temp V, and then Maeve got the power to fly, like Wonder Woman.
I guess we'll see.
That would be a really. I'm really excited for season 5. I think that's gonna be really good matchups going on in that season. Really good matchups.
Yeah.
Now, okay, so overall, what would you rate this season?
I would rate this season a 9.
What would you rate it in compare? You would rate how would you rate season 1 to season 4?
Season 1 I would put like a 9.5 because that was something that I hadn't seen something like this before, so it kind of like hit me heavy. So that was up there. I call season 2. That's the Stormfront season. I couldn't stand her. I couldn't wait for that season alone. Gets a 9 just on the fact of how they handled her at the end of the season because the build up to get to that point was great. Season 3 would have to be about an 8.5 for me. I really enjoyed the introduction of the Soldier Boy character. Like he really helped carry the season. That last season. And then this season again, like I said, I give it a 9 because I like with the exception of Firecracker because I couldn't stand her either. I like how they brought Sage in there because she's like literally like a little virus that they planted in there, and I said I'm curious of what phase 2 is going to be. Because remember, those were her last words. She says on the phase 2. Oh, and this was phase 1. Phase 2 is going to be astronomical.
Yeah, it is. And I can't wait to see. And she's one of the more interesting characters because though at the end you could tell she was orchestrating everything. Like when people, and this was the question I was wondering. I'm all like, how does she not know A Train is the leak? If she's supposed to be the smartest person in the world, how does she not know A Train is the leak or
Even they
whatever?
even
Or does
they
she know?
she said it, I think in one of
But
the
she
episodes
did say at the end, like, yeah, oh yeah, A Train was the leak. I knew it the whole time. I'm like, well, okay, that makes sense. So, like every single event that happened, for the most part, she orchestrated.
Yep, she's like the puppet master.
So I can't wait to see her because her motives can't be what Homelander's motives are.
Oh no! See, the
She
thing
has
is,
to have her own motive.
she's like 10 steps ahead of Homelander. And but the
Yeah,
thing
she
is, they
is.
have to make it seem like Homelander knows everything, and that's the whole thing. Make him believe that he knows everything, but it really doesn't, and then pull the rug from underneath it. Because remember when she was talking to Victoria, she was saying how she had an animosity towards Supes and humans.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can't wait to see what
So it sounds like to me she's using them. She's using a Supe to take down the humans, but they're gonna do something to take them down as well.
Yeah. It's very true. I can't wait to this I really do like the way this season ended. Now let me ask you, what were some of the highlights in this season to you?
Definitely moments with Sister Sage. I like the moments that she had. I would say also the farm scene, that was crazy. The farm
Yeah.
scene was absolutely ridiculous. Um what else? It's so much. Of course, the fight at the first headquarters. I was so glad that Starlight was able to get back against the Deep. Um, I'm actually kind of glad the octopus is gone. That whole storyline was just so weird.
It was.
Uh,
That was a weird thing.
I'm just glad. I'm glad that's done with. What else? Uh, Starlight beating Firecracker. I enjoyed that. And a lot of people was questioning why the actor who plays M looked like he lost so much weight. And I was reading it to, like, he was like doing interviews because people was constantly asking, they thought he was sick. You know, you always got to check to make sure because people, you know, what happened with Chadwick Boseman, you know, RIP to him. So they wanted to make sure that he was okay. He said he's okay. He just had to switch his diet up because he said that he could no longer hold that much weight anymore at his age. And you know he was getting older, so he couldn't hold that much weight anymore, and you know it could have started impacting his health. And I'm actually subscribed to the Men's Health YouTube channel, and they interviewed him, and that was one of the first questions that they was asked, and he was like, he said he's fine, he's healthy, everything is good. He just said that he had to lose some weight because he's getting older, and the way that he was eating was not healthy. So he realized, you know, his metabolism is not as fast as it used to be, and he had to make a change in his health. But other than that, that's all it really boiled down to. He wasn't sick or anything like that, so he wanted to dispel all of that. I'm trying to think what else was there. It was a lot. Like when it comes to the boys, it's so many moments, and you got to try to see which ones really stood out to you a lot because there was so many that was going on.
I will say one of the things that I really liked about this season, I really enjoyed the redemption story or the redemption arc of A Train.
Definitely. I don't know why I didn't think of that, but yes, for sure. That was one of the best parts of this season.
Well, yeah, and I like the fact that they really kind of got into Kimiko's background because you didn't know.
Yeah.
And you didn't actually know prior why she
didn't talk.
Why she didn't talk.
And then we find out because remember she said in one season that her brother had told them what it was, but she said that wasn't the truth. And she basically was in this camp. It was like a Fight Club style camp, and the guy said that y'all have to kill each other without making a sound, and if you do, I'm gonna kill you. So imagine going through that and you have to kill somebody, another girl, and without making a sound, and then whoever makes a sound ends up dying anyway. So like that was, you know, crazy. And then of course we got Frenchie's backstory and finding out that he ended up he slaughtered the person he was sleeping with, his whole family, prior to him sleeping with him, knowing that he did that. And then that was crazy as well. And then Starlight's background as well.
Yeah. So it's really good because I think this season was really more of a character-driven season,
Yeah.
where everybody's kind of getting to like the psyche of all of the characters, because you even tell when Homelander went to his base or whatever, and he was doing his thing with the people who experimented on him, and you were able to get more of a psyche as to why Homelander is so insecure like that.
Yeah.
Butcher too. And I think Butcher's pretty much given up on. I don't know, but I think him essentially accepting Negan. I think that's him essentially saying he gave up on Ryan.
Yeah, like that's what I gathered from that. He realizes that he can't now. Ryan has basically become like an enemy of his. Unless something happens to turn things around, I don't know what's going to happen. And like I said, when it comes to the last season of this, they take all the gloves off. That means if there are characters that go, they go, because they ain't coming back. So, but I heard that they're actually having a spinoff called The Boys Mexico. I don't know. I actually heard that that's going to be another spinoff that they're going to have. It's called The Boys Mexico. So I don't know what characters they might have go over to that, or if they're going to have a whole new roster like they did with Gen V.
Yeah, with some cameos or something. Do you know when they're planning on launching that?
No, I just heard them like make it as an announcement. I actually heard about it, I think, was it last year, I believe, when I heard about it. Yeah, it came out last year, like in November.
Okay. Okay, I'm gonna try that. I'm gonna look into that, because the spinoffs are really good. I really do like the spinoffs.
Yeah.
And I don't even tend to care too much for spinoffs like that, because I think a lot of spinoffs don't put as much effort in the original show.
Yeah.
But I really like Gen V. I think Gen V stood on its own. It tied into the series well, but it stood on its own. So you almost didn't have to watch The Boys, even though you should, but you almost didn't have to.
Right.
And I think that's what makes a good spinoff.
Yeah.
But all right then. We've been on for like 3 hours. This is gonna be a long episode.
Yeah.
I didn't even expect it to be this long.
Right, exactly. We had to, like, that was a lot of ground to cover. It's like it's not like you covering an episode, you covering a whole season.
Yeah.
We literally had to condense like 8 hours into 3.
Yeah, for real. And there's a lot of stuff, the small little stuff that we had to skip over and stuff, but we just, because it's a whole season.
Yeah.
So we had to really condense it into 3 and then give our opinions on a lot of stuff too. We can't just tell you what happened. We got to let you know what we think about it. Well, Torian, do you have any final words before we conclude this podcast episode?
No, that was pretty much it. I don't think there's really much left else to say. I hope anybody who's watched it, y'all leave a comment down in the comments and get the conversation going, to let us know what y'all thought about this season, or even leave comments down there about stuff that we didn't talk about, because like you said, there was little things that we didn't mention. But there is one thing I did want to bring up. When the Deep and Black Noir came back after they got beat at the boys' little headquarters, and they walked past Sage because she basically told them that she got fired, and Black Noir said, "Wait, you can't leave." He said, "I love you," and I'm like, "Huh?" Why? I was like, "Why did you say that?" And he was like, the D was like, "Bro, she said, did she lobotomize herself?" He said, "What do you mean lobotomize herself?" And I was like, "Oh, so she didn't have to turn her brain off to sleep with Black Noir, but she had to do it with you." I thought that was funny when I saw that. I thought that was so funny. I had to
Yeah.
throw that little last piece in there.
Yeah, that was interesting too, because then the deep fell play, and this is after he killed his octopus girlfriend.
Yep. And that's what she was saying. And the octopus was right. She was like, she's using you.
Oh, and that scene was so funny because it was when you thought it was over, it was like, help!
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, that was funny. All right, yeah, that's good. I conclude this. Torian, where can they find you?
All right, y'all can find me here on YouTube. My channel is called Torian Rain Reloaded. On X, formerly known as Twitter, at Torian Rain Reloaded, and then on Instagram it's at Torian_Rain.
The links to all of those will be in the description below. Y'all make sure y'all follow him on all of his social media, especially his YouTube channel, and anticipate a season 5 review, because that's going to be a big deal, because then we're going to be able to recap everything. All of the character arcs are going to conclude. Everything's going to be wrapped up. If they don't do a Gen V, and I think maybe we can do a review on Gen V if they do that before season 5.
Right. I think Gen V will I think Gen V naturally has to come before season 5.
Yeah, it would just feel flat if it doesn't, to be honest. The anticipation wouldn't be there for it would have to, and it has to be launched sometime next year, because I heard that the season 5 thing of The Boys is going to start. There is going to premiere in 2026. They're going to start filming 2025, and then it is going to show 2026.
Yeah, it makes sense.
So that means that they're probably already working on season 2 of Gen V.
Yeah.
To show it next year. So yeah, just be expecting that, y'all. Just be expecting that. And this concludes another episode of the Afro Elite Podcast. Please make sure that if you're listening to this on YouTube, you subscribe to the channel. If you're listening to this on Spotify, you follow the channel. Let me know what you think. I want to know what you think about this. Let me know what you think about, first off, the series. Let me know what you think about the season. Let me know what you think are the ups and downs, your favorite parts of this season. Let me know what you think about what's going to happen in season 5, the final season. Put all of that in the comment section below. Is there anything we missed? Let us know. Put all of those things in the comment section below. Make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. And we will be back with you with another review coming soon. Black first to all of my brothers and sisters. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for listening.